Chapter 442. Welcome, Lord Messenger. The Crowman Elder, Mizia, who gave Han Dong advanced crow magic, came to greet him personally. Life absorption and life diversion. These were Han Dong's current hidden techniques. The reason why he did not use them in the movie The Fog was because Han Dong knew beforehand that the incident itself was not real and all kinds of magic abilities were suppressed. Using advanced magic would consume a lot of energy, and the effect was not very good. The loss outweighed the gain. The Black Sand system of magic after the fusion was one of Han Dong's greatest weapons. When Elder Mizia looked at the other two guests in the car, his expression changed slightly. The Elder was still very knowledgeable, and he could tell that Nicole was a relative at a glance. As for Mr. Black and White, Mizia had also seen him before. This human with crow attributes exuded an extremely strong power and could even destroy the entire Crowman tribe. Yes, teacher came with me this time. Also, this is my servant, Nicole. Congratulations, Lord. Mizia could feel a little of the old king's aura from Nicole, and when he heard that she was a new servant, he quickly congratulated her. Mizia said respectfully, Teacher Black and White's temporary residence has been arranged. Does this deep-sea relative need a place to stay too? Or sleep with you, Lord? Nicole quickly waved her hand. No need. I just came to this world, and it's better to stay with the Lord Messenger. There are many things I need to ask him. All right, follow me. About half an hour passed. In the Elders' conference hall of the ancient castle, Han Dong let Dozier Crow bring Nicole to visit the Stewart Manor. He gathered all the elders together and held an important meeting to discuss two things. Mr. Black and White, as the special guest of the meeting, sat beside Han Dong. The first item of the meeting was search for the hybrid demons, which was to find Han Dong's target. The search was still ongoing. Han Dong proposed to expand the search area outside of Gain Forest, and, at the same time, to limit the search to 1 year. During this period of time, the information on the hybrid demons, including the size of their strongholds and their abilities, had to be recorded and organized in the form of files so that Han Dong could efficiently select them a year later. If he found a suitable target in advance, he could also report directly to Han Dong. Han Dong proposed a reward during the meeting. Any crowman who obtained the information of a suitable hybrid demon would receive a special privilege within the manor. At the same time, Han Dong would also bestow a piece of fate equipment unique to humans. Next, they entered the second agenda of the meeting, which was also the main purpose of Han Dong's trip out of the city. Elders, I've been thinking about creating a special weapon suitable for myself. Currently, I've already collected 2 extremely precious materials. These 2 materials corresponded to the outer body and the core, respectively. Finally, I need an inner body material of the same quality, then I can begin the forging. Han Dong took out 2 epic quality fate materials and passed them to each elder. Mr. Black and White also looked at them once. The core material corresponded to the spoils of war in ghost stories. Lighthouse source, lamp tube. For more information, please refer to Chapter 358, Library. As for the outer body material, it was the epic material that Han Dong exchanged from the Dyson Sphere, with all his accumulated points. It was also the material that Han Dong chose based on the prototype of his ideal weapon, a dark branch that emitted a purple, demonic aura. The branch was about the thickness of 2 arms, twisted and eerie. The surface of the branch seemed to be too damp, and there were some white mushrooms that looked like ghost faces. Ghost face demonic wood quality, epic category, dark material characteristics. 1. Regeneration. As a plant, the cursed demonic wood has a strong regeneration ability. 2. Toughness. A demonic wood with a history of 700 years. Its bark has extraordinary toughness. 3. Ghost face can be used to activate the ghost face barrier by holding the demonic wood, used to block all kinds of magic attacks. Can also be used to attack enemies and spread the ghost face barrier. When the rod is made into a melee weapon, axe, spear, club provides the weapon with high stability. The structure of the bark and the fungus makes it difficult to drop when holding. Provides a moderate increase in the dark attribute and grants the ghost face ability. When the rod is used to make a wand, it provides a higher stability of the weapon, tree bark and bacteria structure, making it difficult to drop when holding, gives a higher increase in black magic, and provides a unique magic shield ghost face barrier. When made into protective leather armor, provides high dark attribute and dark attribute resistance. When attacked, has a certain probability of activating the ghost face barrier to reduce all kinds of damage. Can increase the activation probability of the ghost face barrier by absorbing dark magic, witchcraft, and dark attribute elements. Wow. Energy crystals and such a dark, primitive tree. When passing the materials, many Crowmen elders showed a greedy look. Just one of the materials was enough to make excellent equipment and greatly enhance the individual's ability. But these were the messenger's things, so they naturally didn't dare to be greedy. Pretty good stuff. Even Mr. Black and White gave a high evaluation of these two materials. What kind of weapon is the messenger planning to make? A magic weapon that can satisfy many needs. The demonic wood will be the body of the staff, the lamp will be the energy core, and now we still lack an inner material that can release and regulate energy. I don't know if any of the elders have suitable materials to offer. I'm willing to exchange for equivalent value. The Crowman tribe has lived in the Garn Forest for nearly 100 years, so naturally we have collected some things. Later, I'll make a detailed list and send it to the master's room. If the master can't find suitable materials, we'll continue to consider other special items. At this moment, Mr. Black and White suddenly spoke as a special guest, as if he had followed Han Dong to the manor this time to give the best suggestion. The elder with the highest seniority in your tribe should be in a very bad state, right? He can't even perform the most basic movement, right? As soon as this was said, the Crowman's expressions turned ugly. Indeed, as Mr. Black and White had said, this elder with the highest seniority was basically in the state of a living dead crow. Even the tribe had moved to the Stewart Manor, but this elder still stayed in his original tribe, because even the slightest movement would lead to his death. Why don't we use another method to extend his life? Mizia, the elder who was closest to Han Dong in the council, immediately raised his hand. I agree. There's no possibility of the elder recovering, rather than letting him wait for death. Why don't we let him become the messenger's assistant, so that his spirit and will continue to live on? For a moment, everyone fell into deep thought. At this moment, an elder by you suggested a more reliable idea. I think we need to ask the elder personally. After all, he hasn't met the messenger yet. If the elder is willing to do this, then let's do it. As Han Dong had given the Crowmen a brand new residence as soon as the calamity struck, no one was left to clean up the tattered ruins of the tribe, leaving all sorts of miscellaneous items scattered all over the place. The Great Elder's residence is located in the deepest part of the black citron warthog tree. All of a sudden, Mr. Black and White stopped walking. A dark vortex twisted inwards, and Mr. disappeared in an instant. The White Crow was shocked by Mr. Black and White's methods. It imitated the humans and gave a thumbs up. Caw! Is this a secret teleportation technique? It could be done in an instant without the need for positioning and drawing of the array. Lord Messenger, your teacher is amazing. In less than a minute, Mr. Black and White reappeared in the same place. Something was causing trouble for your great elder, but I've already taken care of it. What? Hearing this, Lan Xia, who was closest to the great elder, immediately spread its wings and flew into the depths of the ruins. Let's follow them. Han Dong immediately sped up and quickly arrived at the deepest part of the ruins. A fat black citron warthog tree covered in warthog tissue stood there. This kind of living tree was rare in the Garn Forest. It had a strong defensive ability, and it could secrete a strong mucus from the warthog mouth to prevent outsiders from getting close. It could even detonate the warthog to attack intruders at critical moments. However, in front of the black citron warthog tree, there were a large number of corpses of monsters, but they were not caused by the warthog explosion. All the corpses were invaded and torn apart by an external force, and dozens of monsters died almost at the same time. The 1,000 Feet tribe. These guys are after the Great Elder's body. The Garn Forest covered a large area. Other than the Crowman tribe, there were also some other evil creatures, monsters, and pagans living here. The 2 Crowmen who are guarding here today had already been eaten by the 1,000 Feet tribe with half human body and half centipede body, leaving only a few bones and feathers. Before they could invade the black citron warthog tree, they were instantly wiped out by Mr. Black and White. Thank you. Elder Lance immediately thanked Mr. Black and White. If he didn't stop them in time, the Great Elder would definitely die if these guys went deep into the tree. These damn 1,000 Feet worms. How dare they kill my people and try to steal the Great Elder's body? After today, I'll definitely make them pay. Elder Lance, did the 1,000 Feet tribe do this before? Han Dong asked. These 1,000 Feet worms are very aggressive and have a strong desire to invade. They like to invade the territories of other tribes, and they like to attack those who don't belong to any tribes in the forest. It's just that most of them hide underground and don't have a fixed residence. Even if we kill one of their elders and a large number of their people, more disgusting worms will crawl out in a while. It's just that we Crowmen are very good at detecting, and we can suppress them. As long as these worms show signs of approaching, we'll be discovered in advance. Over time, they rarely bother us. I didn't expect them to be after the Great Elder. Lance, we'll discuss the 1,000 Feet tribe in private after the Lord Messenger finishes his business. Let's go in and see the Great Elder first. Okay, after the Elder's identity was verified, the black citron warthog tree immediately opened up a wide opening, allowing a group of people to enter. A living tree hole. Han Dong quickly understood why they left the Great Elder here. The Great Elder, who was as thin as a stick, was lying in a blob of flesh inside the tree hole. There weren't many feathers left on the surface of his body, and his entire body was covered in soft tree roots. The black citron warthog tree's specialty was to decompose and digest the mist energy absorbed from the environment. Part of the mist energy was directly injected into the Great Elder's body to maintain his vitality. Just as Han Dong stepped into the room, a voice rang out. Crack! The blob of flesh split open. In an instant, brand new crow feathers grew on the Great Elder's body. A pair of eyes that seemed to be covered in white mist slowly opened. With the support of the tree roots, he slowly sat up and used his last bit of vitality to greet Han Dong. To be able to see the Lord Messenger before I die. It's my honor. Chapter 444. Great Elder. Seeing that the Great Elder had taken the initiative to separate himself from the tumor, it meant that there was no chance for him to survive. Lance, all of you leave. I have something to say to the Lord Messenger and this human prophet. No matter what happens here, it's my own decision. Yes, the Great Elder did not have much time left. The elders immediately retreated and stood guard outside the black citron warty tree. Cough, 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 Lord. I don't have much time. I won't say some words of gratitude. I also hold the position of prophet in the tribe, but I can't compare to this master. I know very well what you want, Lord. I may not be able to find a suitable inner body material in the Crowman tribe's warehouse, but I have it here. But I have a favor to ask of you. If the Lord Messenger can agree to my request, I am willing to use my last chance to complete the creation of the staff for Lord. As the Great Elder gave his last request, Han Dong nodded and agreed without any hesitation. Lord, please give me the material in your hand. Thank you, Great Elder. Lighthouse source, ghost-faced demon wood at the same time, it was handed to the Great Elder. What a rare material. Although I have glimpsed the material through dreams, I didn't expect the material itself to have such a luster. The Great Elder gently placed the demon wood in his body cavity. He chanted an ancient spell, but due to his weak body, he seemed to be unable to do it. Unexpectedly, Mr. Black and White followed up with the spell and chanted it together with the Great Elder, helping the mysterious black magic to be performed smoothly. After the casting of spell that involved self-sacrifice, the spell was completed. The Great Elder's abdominal cavity was gradually opened. Crack, crack, crack. A large number of crow claws extended from the inside and slowly pulled the demon wood into his body. At the same time, the scripture on the Great Elder's right arm was completely activated. Wisps of black aura overflowed and wrapped around his right arm, transforming it into a spiritual form. With such an illusory arm, he slowly extended it into the searchlight and perfectly extracted the wick inside. Due to the characteristics of the lamp source material, the wick that was originally emitting a warm light slowly turned into a dark wick due to the continuous absorption of the Great Elder's aura. After the wick's attribute transformation was completed, the Great Elder swallowed it into his body. Then, I'll leave everything to you. This tree has followed me for 100 years. Let it replace me and witness the glory of the crowmen. As soon as he finished speaking, the last glimmer of light in First Elder's eyes disappeared. Due to being in the state of a living death crow all year round, the Grand Elder, who should have died a few months ago, had accumulated a large amount of death chi in his body during the few years he was living. When the Great Elder died, he used a special method to seal the death energy in his body. He created an extremely rare death cavity, which was used to complete the creation of a special kind of staff weapon, using the Great Elder's body as a weapon manufacturing site, using the unique crow's heart as the inner body material. It had perfectly fused with the two epic destiny materials Han Dong had provided, creating a unique wand-type weapon. During this period of time, the soft roots connected to the Grand Elder's body would deliver the mist energy to the greatest extent possible, replenishing the energy needed to forge the weapon. A unique weapon created from fate materials combined with the crowmen's bodies and the aura of chaos. Perhaps only outsiders like Han Dong would be able to use it. It's about time. Hurry up and recognize me as your master. Use your advanced crow magic to establish a connection with the wand inside. All right, Han Dong stepped forward, reaching out the undying sacrificial hand. A black scripture rotated in his palm, activated by advanced crow magic. Streams of life fluid flowed into the Grand Elder's body, connecting with the wand that was about to be completed. Sucking? For a moment, a large amount of life force was extracted in reverse. Han Dong quickly stabilized his body. In a short period of time, Han Dong's entire arm was completely sucked dry, turning into a mummy's arm, or it could be said that it returned to its original state. Using life force to infuse the wand with fresh life force, he completed the recognition process. At the same time, he activated a special living creature at the tip of the wand, completing the final step of creating the wand. Caw! A crow's cry that sounded like the Grim Reaper's echoed in the tree hole. Even the three elders who were guarding the door were taken aback by this. The Grand Elder's body had completely exhausted its energy to create the wand, leaving only a thin layer of skin. It was slowly pierced by a black beak. Han Dong waved his hand, and the wand appeared in his hand. Whoosh! For a moment, the corpse feather garment that he wore on his body, made from the nails of the Arab ghouls and the feathers of the crow men, was activated by the wand. It transformed into a coat of black feathers that covered Han Dong's body. The magic circuits that little brother Demps had adjusted immediately began to flow with black energy. This feeling, inside the tree hole, footsteps could be heard. Han Dong held a wand in his hand, the outline of which was difficult to make out and the sinister eye faintly visible. He slowly walked out of the tree hole. Upon seeing this wand and sensing the energy it exuded, the three elders understood what had happened inside and knelt down. Elder Lancia couldn't help but shed a tear that was mixed with black light. The first elder entrusted me with a task before he left. He needs me to personally move this black citron warthog to the manor. Therefore, I request that the three elders not provide any assistance during the entire process. I must complete this process alone. Okay, we will lead the way for my lord. The wand in Han Dong's hand moved slightly. The soil at the bottom of the giant warthog tree loosened, and the black quicksand carried the giant tree slowly toward the estate. With the assistance provided by the wand, Han Dong could cast large-scale spells with little energy consumption. At the same time, the black quicksand carried Han Dong up to the top of the giant tree and slowly moved toward the estate. Even though the energy in his head was rapidly depleting, Han Dong's lips were brimming with a smile. Han Dong had never thought that the weapon he wanted could be completed so quickly. Moreover, the final product was far better than he had expected. The black vortex spun. Mr. Black and White appeared beside Han Dong. The wand is different from ordinary weapons, not to mention that the materials you prepared are so special. There are wand-making masters in the Holy City, but they are not suitable to make a wand for you. Remember, although the weapon is powerful, the true power lies in the user. Understood? In addition, the use of this wand is not limited to your current major and minor professions. Using a weapon flexibly and unleashing 200% of its potential will help you stand at a higher position. Thank you for your guidance, sir. I still have something to do, so I'll go back first. Don't stay outside the city for too long. After saying that, Mr. Black and White turned into a crow and flew away. Chapter 445. Ka. Bring people and save us. Han Dong had just moved the black citron warthog tree into the manor. He immediately heard the Dozier Crow's cry for help. The two-headed crowmen could be considered the elites of the tribe, but the current Dozier Crow was in a miserable state. There were not many feathers left on its body, and it flew to Han Dong as fast as it could to ask for help. What's the situation? That octopus girl, she wants to eat me. Han Dong followed the direction the Dozier Crow pointed. Nicole slowly walked out from the town's wall, and the white dress she had just changed into was full of mud. Messenger, the little crow, and I haven't finished our sparring yet. It ran away while we were fighting. Hurry up and let little crow play with me. Han Dong knew very well that Anai did not have any bad intentions. She just did not control her strength. The Dozier Crow follows me everywhere on adventures, and it's rare for it to return to the tribe. Let it have a good rest. Nicole, come with me. I'll take you to a fun place. Nicole immediately shifted her attention away from the Dozier Crow when she heard that they were going to a place she had never been before. Thank you for bringing me. The octopus girl you brought back is too scary. Woo-woo. The Dozier Crow actually cried out in disappointment and immediately flew back to its small room in the castle to heal and regrow its feathers. Han Dong asked Nicole to wait below for a moment until the tree was perfectly rooted in the castle's backyard area. This tree that had followed the great elder for 100 years also had its own spirituality. If one day an army came to the castle area, this tree could also provide a certain amount of defense. In addition, the tree itself also symbolized the will left behind by the great elder, and it could be considered as an explanation to the Crow-Men tribe. Nicole, let's go. Han Dong led Nicole directly down the tomb's secret passage and went to the manor's underground area. After all, to satisfy Nicole's curiosity, Han Dong deliberately did not take the elevator. He chose to walk down the passage of the underground tomb and at the same time check on Dr. Swollen's work. Has everything been rectified according to my suggestions? Dr. Swollen is pretty good. On the basis of the original ghoul blastocysts, an even more sophisticated incubation chamber and various detection devices were added. Ghoul larvae that had fused with the combat abilities of death row prisoners were placed in these incubation chambers. Their growth rate was much slower than normal ghouls. After all, the expression and inheritance of combat genes had to be slowly cultivated. Once it was successful, it would be an individual ghoul that could fight against 10 ghouls. Nicole, who had never seen such an experimental device, immediately threw out all sorts of questions. She even wanted to extend her tentacles, wanted to touch the baby ghoul. Han Dong tried his best to explain, but he also sternly warned Nicole not to touch the experiment equipment. In the deepest part of the room, he saw the doctor and the head nurse who were busy. How's the research on the anti-pressure drug coming along? Initial production has already begun. It is estimated that the output will be stable in half a year. Congratulations to my lord for obtaining such a valuable treasure. The swollen doctor stared at the strange wand in Han Dong's hand. He was so scared that his brain started to sweat. Every time they met, Han Dong would become stronger and stronger, and the doctor's reverence for him would become stronger and stronger. Yes. Is there a finished product now? I'll bring it back to test its effects. There is. The doctor immediately stretched out his hand and squeezed a brain-shaped sieve. Streaks of light yellow liquid flowed into the test tube. Doctor, you added the brain formula? Yes, this can greatly reduce the side effects after taking the drug. Yes, I'll go back and try it out first. If the effect is good and the side effects are minimal, we can consider mass production. If this matter can be done well, I will satisfy all the formation drives, materials, and other special help you need to become a hybrid demon. Han Dong stared at the doctor, whose brain was filled with gears. He could already faintly feel that the doctor was infinitely close to becoming a hybrid demon, and he only needed an opportunity. Moreover, for a special life form outside the city, like the swollen doctor who leaned towards brain, once he had a breakthrough, it would be of great help to Han Dong in the future. Thank you, my lord. The swollen doctor also glanced at the dependents beside Han Dong. He was very clear that Han Dong had the ability to contain them, so he didn't ask much. Just like that, the matter outside the city came to an end. It could be said that one of Han Dong's greatest wishes had been fulfilled. With such a weapon in hand, the seed breaker would be a lot more convenient. Because he had filled up his fate points in advance, Han Dong had a full 2 years to prepare. Of course, Han Dong had very high requirements for the seed breaker goal. Even if it didn't meet the goal in the slightest, he would give it up. After all, this involved whether or not 2 different fate seeds could be fused into one and grow into a unique talent tree. At the same time, it was also related to how far Han Dong could grow in the future. With a year's time, using the Crowman's influence outside the city and Mr. Black and White's intelligence network, he should be able to obtain ideal information. Holy City. Behemoth Knights. Abel had just finished his training for the day. Very few people could imagine how intense Abel's daily training was. 99% of the students would have a mental and physical breakdown under this kind of intense training. Therefore, every time during the gathering, Abel would cry after drinking. But only under this kind of training could Abel's full potential be stimulated. Extraordinary people naturally couldn't be judged by ordinary people's standards. Abel, who had just soaked in the medicine tank, hadn't relaxed his body yet. A bat suddenly flew in front of the medicine tank. Abel, Commander Kai Meng wants to see you. Wow, can you ask grandfather to wait for a moment? I just came in. He said that the president of the Authors Association came in person. He seems to have found a suitable target for your seed breaker. You have to go now. As soon as he finished speaking, there was no one in the medicine tank. No matter how tired Abel was, he still had to have basic etiquette. The president of the Authors Association was comparable to a commander in the Holy City. How could he be negligent when the other party came for his own matter? Greetings, President Makhnovsky. HM? Abel immediately called out the president's name when he stepped into the great beast lair, but his sense of smell couldn't detect the president's presence. Why would the president personally come to a rough place like ours? He only sent a servant to report. This is information on the hybrid demons that the president personally scouted out. Hybrid demons. Grandfather, that's right. How could I, Kai Meng's grandson, kill ordinary demons and monsters to break the seed breaker? Hybrid demons are my requirements for you, and the hybrid demons recorded in this report are very suitable for your 100 beasts attribute. It's just that the target habitat is quite far from the Holy City. Take this report back and take a look. As for leaving the city and rushing to the destination, I will consider it for you. Okay. When Abel received the letter with the seal of the Authors Association, the white hairs on his body immediately stood up. An inexplicable sense of danger swept through his body. Chapter 446. You have 2 whole years. Since the Authors Association has helped you find a suitable target, you should spend more time preparing for battle. As for the situation of the habitat, I will extract the information from the night's exploration and give it to you. Remember, your target is not a newly evolved hybrid demon, but a mature one with a certain amount of history and hunting experience. With your current strength, even if you unleash the potential hidden in your body, you will still be in great danger. Give yourself half a year to a year to prepare for battle. Based on your current foundation, continue to dig deeper into the potential of the beasts. At the same time, find a way to obtain a strong enough equipment to equip yourself. Abel nodded. Okay, Abel, you will definitely be able to stand at a higher position than me and look down on this world. This is a very important step. No matter how much pressure you face, you must endure it. I will definitely do it. Abel's expression and heart were very determined. However, after he returned to the dormitory and read the detailed information, he seemed to want to find a chance to drink with his friends to relieve his worries. Abel, who has arranged more than 10 battles every day, had a clear understanding of his own abilities and limits. At his current stage, it was impossible for him to defeat such a hybrid demon alone. The view changed. It had been 3 months since Han Dong cleared the solo Destiny event, Mist. During this time, Han Dong perfectly balanced the time for rest and study. He tried his best to reach the maximum level of mysticism and library. Due to the problem of the upper limit, Han Dong did not study as hard as he could. Instead, he changed into a state of meditation. He gradually spent more time every day in the library, reading books in various fields. Once, Han Dong read a book called The Basics of Plant Healing. He learned a way to simplify the life division, allowing the conversion of energy and life to be more efficient. Han Dong read all kinds of books. His goal was to have a more comprehensive understanding of the magic system and to maximize the energy consumption of magic. As for the issue of the anti-stress drug, Han Dong also used Brother Dempsey's influence in the civilian district to give it to ordinary civilians who have suffered from visual pollution. The effect was very good. As long as it could be mass-produced, the money owed to Demps could be repaid. Walla Walla. Today, Han Dong read until 8 o'clock at night. When he got up, bean-sized raindrops hit the glass window violently. Just as Han Dong was about to wrap himself in the bird-beak doctor's coat and return to the dormitory in the heavy rain, a relatively wide umbrella was opened above Han Dong's head. Let's go back together. Teacher Hera needs to prepare a speech for tomorrow's conference, so I don't need to accompany her tonight. The person holding the umbrella for Han Dong was none other than Demps. Today, he was wearing a long windbreaker with a round collar. It covered half of his face, but still couldn't hide his handsome face. Now that Han Dong and Demps were seniors in their 3rd year, many of the younger fangirls who recognized Demps looked at them enviously. They really hoped that they could enjoy the same treatment as Han Dong. Moreover, considering that Han Dong was short, thin, and had a face of acceptance, plus the two often walked together, many rumors had already spread in the library. Han Dong asked, "Speaking of which, I haven't seen you for more than 2 weeks. Where did you go?" "I went to the Destiny realm and almost died." "Huh? What's the difficulty?" 4.5 stars, a curse-type event called Ring. In the temporary team, 3 people died. Only I and a lucky student barely managed to pass the level. Although it was very scary, Demps had a leisurely look on his face. He didn't look like someone who walked back from the brink of death at all. As for what happened during the Destiny event, no one knew. "Are your seeds saturated as well?" "Yes. It's a good thing that it's saturated in advance. It gives me more time to prepare." "Nicholas, have you found your target? With the Crow Prophet as your backer, it should be easy to find your target, right?" "No, I didn't trouble you, teacher." Demps pushed his monocle up his nose. "Since you don't have any leads, why don't we try to find outside the city next time?" "Sure." Both of them had their own networks outside the city. The exchange of information could double the probability of finding a suitable target. For ordinary apprentice knights, if they want to find a suitable target, they would usually buy information from authors. After all, authors can leave the holy city through dreams and spy on the situation outside the city in a special state. However, we better not take this route. Demps smiled awkwardly. Due to the Secret Stone incident, Both of them were targeted by a large group of traitors in the Holy City. Mr. Black and White also directly revealed the identity of the traitors. Both of them tried their best not to get involved with the Authors Association. Tita. While the carriage was driving from the library to the dormitory area, Han Dong glanced through the window and saw a young man sitting alone on a stone bench by the road in the night rain. He held a bottle of wine in one hand and covered his forehead with the other. When Han Dong was still alive, he often looked like a lovelorn man. Stop the carriage. Han Dong immediately stopped the carriage and got off with Demps. The person sitting in the night rain and drinking was Abel of the 100 Beasts, who is known as the most talented student in this batch of students. Abel, what's going on? Han Dong, who was sitting in the carriage, immediately noticed the conspicuous white hair and the exposed beast ears that were exposed due to the wine. Han Dong thought that he had seen wrongly. After all, Abel was the grandson of Commander Kai Meng. How could he be in such dire straits? I'm in such a difficult situation. Abel, who was completely drunk, kept repeating as if he had suffered an unprecedented blow. Han Dong had no choice but to carry him to the carriage. Who knew that before he could put Abel down, he would vomit all over Han Dong. Han Dong felt helpless. Brother Demps, what do you think Abel went through? It's probably because Commander Kai Meng gave him too much pressure and demands. It's most likely because of the broken seed. Nicholas, bring Abel to my dormitory tonight. Since the three of us have the same goal, we can discuss the broken seed together. Okay. On the other side, at the entrance of Han Dong's dormitory, after knowing that Han Dong had returned from the Destiny Realm, Mia Semenovich, who was carrying the Demon Blade, would wait here every day. Whenever she had the chance, she would go back to the dormitory with Han Dong. Even if she had to sleep on the sofa, Mia was very willing. However, Han Dong did not return tonight. Scumbag. He must be fooling around with Demps again. Chapter 447. That's strange. Where am I? Due to excessive drinking. When Abel woke up, he still felt his head was very heavy. Feeling the soft leather binding him and staring at the spacious and luxurious European-style room, Abel was dumbfounded. His last memory was on the stone bench. He didn't remember how he came here at all. You're awake. Demps woke up 15 minutes early. Demps, who was used to taking a shower in the morning, walked out of the bathroom in his pajamas. This scene was a bit strange. Abel was shocked and immediately looked at his body. He was naked. For a moment, some strange images appeared in Abel's mind. Demps, what's going on? Captain, don't misunderstand. Yesterday, when I returned to the dormitory with the vice captain, I found you drunk on the road. Considering that it was raining heavily and the weather was cold, we decided to bring you back to the dormitory to prevent you from catching a cold. Then, you vomited all over the car, so we had to change your clothes for you. While he was explaining, Han Dong also walked out of the cubicle, looking like he had just woken up. Although nothing happened, Abel still felt that something was wrong. Abel sighed. Sigh. I'm really sorry to have caused you trouble. I remember that Captain has reached a state of saturation. You should be preparing the broken seed, right? There's still more than a year and a half before we graduate. You should be very relaxed. What's troubling you, Captain? Abel smiled awkwardly. It's about the broken seed. Hee hee. By the way, can you lend me a pair of pants to wear first? Demps's dormitory applied for a single room for advanced students with the help of Vice Dean Hera. It was a luxurious room with 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. Breakfast was also delivered by the dormitory staff for free. At the dining table, 4 large steaks were placed in front of Abel. As for Han Dong and Demps, they only asked for a milk and cereal set meal. I've decided. I'm not going to the nights today. After eating 4 steaks, Abel seemed to have figured out something and turned off the communication device. However, he immediately chickened out after 5 minutes. Thinking of the scene where he was taught a lesson by the teachers, he quickly turned on the device again. DDD. After a while, the clockwork mechanism rang out. Abel was so frightened that he walked towards the dormitory door, wanting to report to the Behemoth Knights. When the device was connected, a rather irritable voice came out. Why aren't they here yet? Today's training is very important to you. You have 20 minutes to get there. It was Commander Keeman's voice that came from the clockwork mechanism. Abel was about to reply. Han Dong grabbed Abel's arm. Hello, Commander Kai Meng. I'm Nicholas. Do you still remember me? Today, I was with Abel, and Mr. Black and White happened to be looking for us about Broken Seed. The moment he heard Mr. Black and White's name, he was shocked. On the other side of the device, Commander Keeman's attitude immediately changed. Ahem. I'm all right. Let Abel accompany you to meet the prophet. When it came to Mr. Black and White, Commander Keeman really wanted to have more contact with Abel. Moreover, Commander Keeman also thought highly of Han Dong, Mr. Black and White's only student. He hoped that his grandson could establish a friendship with this student in advance and realize the beast-crow cooperation that he couldn't realize. Commander Keeman, Mr. Black, and White seems to have some special arrangements and training, and it might take a lot of time. I don't know if it will delay Abel's training. It doesn't matter. Since it's Mr. Black and White's arrangement, Abel will definitely be able to learn from it. Okay. The moment the communication ended, fluffy white fur immediately covered Han Dong's body. Abel opened his arms and hugged Han Dong tightly, completely treating him as a savior. Brother Abel, what have you been through recently? Han Dong and Abel had worked together many times. Abel was definitely not a weak person, and he had the willpower and courage to bear his talent. It was hard to imagine how he was forced to be like this. When Abel took out his study schedule from his trouser pocket, Han Dong immediately understood. On the basis of his previous devil training, he continued to double it. When he was most tired, Abel could even fall asleep standing up with broken legs and arms. Speaking of which, Commander Keeman must have a purpose for training you like this, right? Captain Abel, have you already found the target of seed breaking? Yes, 2 months ago. Grandfather helped me get a seed-breaking target from the Authors Association that is very suitable for my beast attribute. But the target is a hybrid demon. That's right, and it's not a normal hybrid demon. With my current strength, it's impossible for me to defeat it. Also, due to the upper limit of the seed stage, it's very difficult for me to grow through training. I have to use this kind of hellish training to stimulate my potential and arouse the beast in my body. Only under extreme circumstances can I enter that state. These days, I feel like my life is in darkness. I almost can't hold on. Not a normal hybrid demon? Han Dong was a bit confused. It had to be known that to perfectly defeat a hybrid demon to break a seed was very difficult. Not to mention how cunning the hybrid demons were. Other than the secret stone hybrid demon that was lured into the holy city, all the hybrid demons outside the city had their own ways of escaping. It was very difficult to kill them alone, let alone by a training knight. Although Abel had a lot of potential, to force him to kill an extraordinary hybrid demon was indeed very stressful. What kind of hybrid demon is it? Take a look for yourselves. Abel took out the letter from the Authors Association. Hybrid demon intelligence, top secret, name, temporary Chromagus dragonbee species. Record in alien demon book, no, newly discovered newborn alien demon. Active area, wandering in the middle and south of the Adelaga mountain range. Characteristics, mixed with many beast attributes. It is an evolved form of a special type of wild monster. It is very likely to be the ruler of the wild monsters in the Adelaga mountain range. According to the structure of its head and skin, it is suspected to have swallowed a dragon in the destiny space. According to the aura it is emitting, it should be a newborn hybrid demon. In the accompanying picture, there was a terrifying beast with 3 terrifying beast heads, each with a dragon horn on its head. It had a giant body of more than 20 meters, and its dark skin seemed to be covered with indestructible dragon scales. This kind of terrifying beast did not fit the word newborn at all. Commander Kai Meng's requirements are a bit too high. Even Demps frowned when he looked at this hybrid demon. This hybrid demon that seems to have dragon attributes, even an official knight would have a hard time killing it. Even if Captain Abel is a genius that only appears once in 1,000 years, there is still a high chance that he will die. When Dempsey said these words, Yi Zichin said, Abel was already squatting in the corner and drawing circles. 3 black lines could be added to his forehead. Chapter 448. After a while, Demps brought out an old map made of parchment from his room. I got this map from Hera. After all, the map is forbidden to circulate in the Holy City. Only special departments and very few people can display the map. As for the reason, I don't need to say more. This map was replaced from the drawing room of the library due to its expiration date, and I took it back. It was about 15 years old. Although some of the land on the map has changed, the overall map is still the same. Regarding this map, please don't spread it. Otherwise, I may be arrested and sent to jail. This was a small map with the Holy City as the center, 300 kilometers x 300 kilometers. When the map was fully unfolded, the Holy City was in the center of the map and took up 110% of the area. As for the surrounding lush gain forest, it took up 1/3 of the map. The Adelaga mountain range was located in the north of the map. The foot of the mountain was about 113 kilometers away from the Holy City. As long as Abel's target was further away, he would be close to the edge of the map. One thing to note was that besides the basic forest, canyon, and mountain range on the map, there was also a very eye-catching bright black dividing line to mark out some special areas. This included the Stuart Manor. As this map was an old version, the area had not been changed. The manor area was printed with a distorted white font. It was the abbreviated symbol that Han Dong was familiar with. The areas that are specially marked are the territories under the king's jurisdiction. They all have a title deed. For example, the Stuart Manor that we went to during the last training. As for the Adelaga Mountain Range that Captain Abel wants to go to, it also has a part of the king's territory. The Adelaga Mountain Range, shown on the map, had a small area separated by a black line. The inside of the area was printed with bright red abbreviated characters, CHF. Obviously, it was the abbreviated name of an old king. When it comes to the title deed, it means that there is definitely a hidden evil and wild monster group in the Adelaga Mountain Range that is directly controlled by a king. Captain Abel, your target is very likely to be the guardian of the title deed. Of course, if you have the Behemoth Knights to protect you the entire time, and the Behemoth Knights will clear out all obstacles for you. You only need to deal with this hybrid demon. Yes, Grandfather gave me the relevant information. Once I'm ready, the Knights will escort me there. Abel's words clearly did not sound very confident. At this moment, Han Dong, who was carefully examining the map, suddenly said, "It's a little strange." At this time, a new hybrid demon that matches Abel's attributes appeared near the Holy City. Han Dong didn't believe in such a coincidence. Of course, this suspicion was built on the basis that there was a problem with the chairman of the Writers' Association. Moreover, Han Dong had ordered the Crowman tribe to conduct a comprehensive search of the Garn Forest. So far, they had only obtained 3 pieces of information about the hybrid demons, which had nothing to do with their own abilities. Every mantis demon was unique. It was not easy to find a newborn mantis demon that was compatible with their attributes. It is indeed a bit of a coincidence. Demps also agreed with Han Dong's opinion. Han Dong was prepared to suggest that everyone go to the mystery branch. After all, this matter involved the chairman of the Writers' Association. Naturally, Mr. Black and White would pay attention to it. If Mr. said that there was no problem, Han Dong and the others would not have to worry too much. At this moment, a crow flew in from the window. It transformed into Mr. Black and White's appearance. Seeing this, the 3 immediately bowed their heads and greeted him respectfully. At the same time, they were very surprised that Mr. Black and White would come here personally. Hera is willing to take the risk to give you the map. It seems like she values you a lot. Huh? Demp smiled awkwardly. He had spent a lot of finger strength to exchange for it. This matter is settled. The 2 of you will assist Abel Ryan to go to Mount Arrogad. Huh? The 3 of them didn't quite understand. Just as you guessed, there's a problem with this matter, but it is also a rare opportunity. Only the 3 of you have the ability to do this. Mister, what are you planning to do? Mr. Black and White waved his hand, and the dark shadow barrier completely sealed off Dempsey's room to prevent the walls from eavesdropping. Since someone took the initiative to give something to lure Abel into a trap, then let's do it on purpose. However, the three of you will act together. After accepting someone's gift, take the opportunity to dig deeper and find out the true identity of the person who gave the gift. The three of you will be weak and make the mastermind lower his guard. If you can dig out the mole hiding in the Writers' Association, I promise you, as a prophet, even if you can't get a reward from the Holy City due to special reasons, you can come to me for divination every other year for free. Mr. Black and White's words were vague. Abel didn't know much about the Writers' Association, so he was a little confused. However, Han Dong and Demps naturally knew the risks involved. Mr. Black and White continued. The people in the Writers' Association naturally won't dare to leave the Holy City. What you need to do is to act normally and accompany Abel to Mount Arrogad to get rid of the newborn hybrid demons in the message. During this process, unexpected situations may occur. You need to act according to the situation and try to find out who is planning all this behind the scenes. Even if you can get a small clue, it will be a success. Also, you will gain something in the process. Mr. Black and White was on the mountain. Demps never did things that he wasn't confident in. If the matter was too dangerous, he would decisively reject it. My astrology can't see the whole area covered by the land deed. However, I can see that the three of you will have a big change because of this incident. If you can do your best, the Holy City's line will also change because of you. Because the matter was too sudden, many details couldn't be considered and the danger couldn't be evaluated. Demps was a little uncertain. I need to ask Teacher Hera's opinion. At this moment, Mr. Black and White suddenly took off his mask. Caw! Caw! Countless crows flew out from under the mask. He directly changed the current student dormitory to a burial ground. At the same time, he blocked Abel, staring at Mr. Black and White's face, which was covered by endless darkness. Dempsey's back was covered in sweat. The protection from me is not free. It proves your chivalry and your determination to fight for human freedom. It is an equivalent exchange. Also, something in the Writers' Association values the two of you very much. If this huge, hidden danger can't be eliminated, something will happen to you sooner or later. Demps, who felt endless fear and pressure, didn't dare to hesitate and immediately knelt down on one knee. I will do my best to complete this matter. Han Dong was also a little surprised. It was the first time he saw Mr. Black and White's attitude so firm. It was as if he had already predicted that the three of them would work together. It was as if the three of them had to work together to deal with this matter. Chapter 449. He put on his mask again. Everything returned to normal. I'll talk to Commander came on and Deputy Headmaster Hera in private about this matter. The specific departure time should be set at the end of your third year or the beginning of your fourth year. Maybe you'll be escorted to the mountains by the knights, or maybe you'll go through special training. The three of you might even have to figure out a way to get there. In any case, you must be prepared before you leave. This is a very important opportunity. If you do it well, you'll be able to get rid of the biggest hidden danger in the Holy City in one fell swoop. As soon as he finished speaking, Mr. Black and White disappeared. Since Abel had not participated in the Secret Stone incident, he did not understand why Mr. Black and White would personally take over the matter of his broken seed. At the same time, Han Dong and Demps were also involved. Han Dong said in a very certain tone, "Since Sir has decided, the three of us will leave the city together and head to Mount Adalaja." "Is there a problem with the Authors Association?" Abel asked. "It's just Sir's one-sided suspicion. He can't provide any evidence. We'll just pretend that nothing happened. With the goal of breaking your seed, Abel will carry out this mission as usual. I believe that when the time comes, Teacher will give us some guidance in secret." "Okay, Abel, since you've taken a few days off, why don't you come with me to the Mystery Branch? We can spar. Maybe it can help you stabilize the beast in your body." Han Dong extended an invitation to Abel. Han Dong also needed an opponent who was as strong as him to spar with. "Okay, as long as you don't return to the Knights, I'm fine with anything. Dimps, are you coming? No need. I have to go back to the library to prepare. I'll contact you guys when I'm free. Dimps seemed to have something on his mind. Okay, that's it then. Anyway, we still have a long time to prepare. Maybe we'll leave the city in a few months. Han Dong and Abel left the room one after another. Dimps stood alone in front of the map and stared at the mountainous area marked with CHF. His expression was not very pleasant. Mother has reminded me many times not to get close to this mountainous area. Other than the jurisdiction of this old god, there should be some other secrets. Mr. Black and White really had a good plan. He wanted to use me and Han Dong to lure out the big guys in the Authors Association. If this matter is not handled carefully, I will fall into an endless abyss. But Mr. Black and White can't refuse. He couldn't think of the best solution. The anxious Dimps had already begun to scratch his body with his sixth finger, clasping layers of skin to the ground. As expected of the holy city's prophet, I'm afraid he had planned all of this a long time ago. The big guy, hidden in the Authors Association, is naturally not easy to deal with. So much so that Mr. Black and White couldn't find any evidence of this person, even in the case of the secret stone that caused a huge commotion last time. This matter is bound to be extremely dangerous. I should seriously meditate for a while and think of a way to escape. It's necessary now. Dimps took a deep breath, tidied his clothes, and set off. He didn't go to the library. Instead, he went to the third floor of the Holy City. 3 months ago, Dimps had received an invitation from a knight regiment and was qualified to enter the regiment for training. Currently, Han Dong and the others were in the first semester of their third year of university. They were scheduled to leave the city at the end of their third year or the first semester of their fourth year. There was half a year in between for everyone to prepare. They had found Han Dong, their savior. Whenever Abel couldn't hold on in the knight regiment, he would find an excuse to run to Han Dong to take refuge. Han Dong also took the opportunity to spar with Abel. It had to be said that Abel's fighting ability, coupled with his bestial nature, was quite terrifying. He could change his form to avoid and block all kinds of magic. When he was close to Han Dong, he could immediately switch to his terrifying mad wolf or bear form to suppress him. Every time they sparred, the two of them would gain a lot. Also, when Han Dong went out of the city to the manor, he asked the Crow elders about the Adelaja Mountain and the meaning of CHF. The Crow elders all agreed that Han Dong should not get close to the territory of the former king. They said that the former king had a strong desire to invade humans. Moreover, there was an indescribable danger lurking in the Adelaja Mountain. However, the Crowman tribe had never left the Gain Forest, so they didn't know what was going on in the mountain. Just like that, half a year passed. Han Dong and the others were only a month away from the end of their third year of university. However, Mr. Black and White didn't send any message about leaving the city. During this long period of waiting and preparation, something happened. In the morning, Han Dong, who had just woken up from the old sewer, suddenly received an urgent message from the National Royal Knight Academy. Such an urgent message to all the apprentice knights was very rare. All apprentice knights, please go to the general office of your respective academy to receive an urgent task. This task can't be rejected. Please execute it immediately after receiving the task. Huh? What's so urgent? Han Dong went up the elevator and arrived at the student office in the Dark Moon Tower. This floor was already crowded with students from the Mystery Academy. Nicholas, you're so slow. Han Dong squeezed in the crowd for a while, and 2 slender arms grabbed him. Mia, what's the situation? Don't you know? About a week ago, a special disease broke out in the civilian area. At first, a few homeless people were infected. Who would have thought that in just 2 days, the disease would spread through several streets? At present, the Knights have quarantined all the infected areas, covering a large area and involving tens of thousands of people. We need to use all the manpower, including us apprentice knights, to carry out special treatment in the quarantined areas. Huh? It's not an ordinary disease, right? Han Dong knew very well that the medical science in this era was relatively backward. However, magic could take on the heavy responsibility of treating diseases. For example, Han Dong's plague science could directly immunize a large number of bacterial and viral infections, and it was almost impossible to get sick. Even if there was a highly contagious disease in the civilian area, some knights who were good in this field should be able to control it in a short period of time, and it should not evolve into a quarantined area. No, we still need to wait until we receive the task and report to the corresponding knight team to know the specific situation. However, I heard that the infected people will have rashes all over their bodies in the early stage, and they will become extremely bloodthirsty or grow some strange things in the later stage of the infection. Hee. It sounds very exciting. Moreover, this urgent task will give a good reward. Let's do it well. Okay. Han Dong's eyes flashed with a doubtful luster. When such an uncontrollable large-scale event occurred in the Holy City, Han Dong immediately thought of the president of the Writers' Association. Let's see what's going on first. Chapter 450. The three of you go to the quarantine area and report to Knight Priscilla. The knight will lead you deep into the quarantine area to eliminate the plague. The red plague this time is extremely dangerous. No one is allowed to leave the team without permission, and no one is allowed to do anything unnecessary. If you're infected with the red plague, you will also be quarantined. Although it is called a plague, the actual infection is beyond the scope of an ordinary plague. There have been 3 cases of apprentice knights being infected and dying. Do not be careless. Follow the orders of the knight. Yes, Han Dong, Mia, and a mysterious apprentice who was only 1 meters tall and looked rather cute were grouped together. It was obvious that this apprentice was frightened by her teacher's stern warning. Her eyes flashed with a light that was not very resolute. The 3 of them sat in an undead carriage provided by the cemetery's butler and headed to the quarantine area. Nice to meet you, seniors. My name is Flora Shelley. I specialize in suturing. I'm a sophomore this year. I will do my best to help. May I ask if you're senior Mia? Yes. Why? Mia had a look of disdain towards this junior who might not be able to help and might even steal her man. Wow, you really are senior Mia, the chief apprentice witch. Mia, are you that famous now? Han Dong teased. Mia drew circles on Han Dong's chest with one hand as she said softly, "Don't worry. The witch always likes to hold meaningless competitions in the witch school. Not long ago, she accidentally took first place in a magic competition. But what's the use of that? I still can't compare to you." This sentence made Flora, who was sitting opposite him, puzzled. She had never heard of any senior who was especially outstanding. She had no impression of this sickly senior. She had never even seen him in the mystery branch. However, this chief apprentice would show a strong sense of dependence towards this senior. "Senior, you are? Just call me Nicholas." Oh, Flora had indeed never heard of this name, but she was getting more and more curious about this mysterious senior. Soon, the carriage arrived at the designated area. The person in charge of leading Han Dong and the other 2 was an official knight who had also graduated from the mystery branch. She was Priscilla Cecil of the Knights of Misfortune. 2 years ago, Priscilla entered the Knights of Misfortune as a normal person. Although she was not particularly outstanding, she was still an official knight above Han Dong and the others. Perhaps it was due to the fact that knights who studied mysticism appeared to be rather strange. At least in terms of their attire, they were completely different from the knights in metal armor, in his impression. Paladin Priscilla was wearing a gray robe with occasional streaks of dark light. Wrapped in a strange white headscarf, his dark brown hair was like seaweed, spilling out from the gaps in his headscarf and scattering over his shoulders. She had a lot of freckles on her face, but she had a pair of special emerald green eyes. He could sense a strong curse aura from the senior who had graduated. She seemed to specialize in a type of curse that was extremely lethal, but would also have a backlash effect on the user. Here is a document about the Red Plague. You have 10 minutes to finish reading it. We will go deep into the infected area in 15 minutes. If it weren't for the fact that the number of infected people is too much for the knights to handle, you newcomers wouldn't have to deal with such a dangerous matter. Don't die. You still have a big goal to achieve. But from this sentence, it showed that this female knight had a good heart. When Han Dong took the document, he immediately entered a state of focused reading. Red plague, route of transmission. Transmission by bodily fluids, mainly through blood. When more than 10 milliliters of infected blood enters the body of another person, the infection rate is as high as 100%. Transmission by arthropods, using the crimson blood insect species, mosquitoes, flies, fleas, lice, etc., ticks, and mites of the arachnid class, born in the infected person's body as the transmission medium. The insect body will reproduce quickly by sucking blood. Once it enters the human body, the infection rate is as high as 100%. It cannot be transmitted in the air, droplets and dust are ineffective, or in water, diluted blood is not infectious. Symptoms of infection, a total of 3 stages. 1. In the early stage of infection, the first stage, the infected person's myocardium capacity is enhanced. The red blood cells' oxygen storage capacity is increased, and the self-recovery ability is enhanced. Not only will the patient not have any symptoms of discomfort, but they will also show unprecedented liveliness and energy. Even some existing diseases and old injuries will be healed in the process. This state will last for about 12 hours. When the red plague is fully transmitted through the blood flow to the cerebral layer, it will enter the second stage. 2. The red plague throughout the body will begin to consume normal blood. Without affecting cognitive ability, the brain will be induced to produce a strong need for blood. Force tolerance will lead to the collapse of consciousness, and indiscriminate feeding will occur. In this stage, the infected person will show a strong aggressiveness, attempting to attack others and suck blood. At the same time, they will inject their own blood into the body of their prey, promoting the birth of new infected people. Special note: identification method in the process of inducing the brain, it will inevitably affect the motor auxiliary area of the hypothalamus, thus stimulating the individual to laugh. In the second stage, the individual will be unable to restrain himself and laugh. 3. When the concentration of the red plague in the body reaches 30%, it will enter the third stage. It will induce the hypothalamus to secrete growth hormone, releasing hormone, causing the secretion of growth hormone to reach 20 times that of a normal person. The red plague in the body will regulate the growth hormone's activation of cells, resulting in proliferation. Due to the different infection conditions, the proliferation at this stage will be different. Pure blood infection proliferation. The individual will grow more limbs in response to the increase in growth hormone. It usually shows the growth of hands and feet, but very rarely wings or strange keratinized structures. In this state, the individual will show a stronger laugh symptom, and the corners of the mouth will even tear due to laughter. Arthropod infection proliferation. The growth hormone will be used as nutrients to catalyze the growth of the crimson bloodworm in the body. After the worm matures, the individual will completely lose the ability to move. Through the growth of the skin and mucous membranes, it will adhere to the surrounding environment and become a living worm nest. After the crimson bloodworm hunts for the blood of other life forms, it will feed the individual with the remaining blood to ensure the activity of the worm nest. Similarly, the laugh symptom will not be removed after turning into a worm nest. Even if the individual completely loses their human form, they will still laugh. Chapter 4:51. Night Priscilla. Is this red plague related to the life outside the city or the curse? If it's just a simple plague, the Knights of Pestilence should be able to deal with it easily, right? Seeing that Han Dong finished reading in 3 minutes and asked a direct question, Night Priscilla was a little shocked. After pushing aside the kelp hair, covering her eyes with her fingers, the knight patiently answered the question. Yes, the plague is related to the life outside the city. At the same time, it's also a blood curse that we've never encountered before. During the mission, you'll need to wear protective goggles and special protective clothing. Go to the supply station to get free holy water, anti-plague potions, and protective clothing. Get ready to go. Han Dong and the other two quickly received various items from the supply station, as well as a temporary simple protective spell. It was far inferior to Han Dong's corpse feather coat. However, in order not to be too conspicuous, Han Dong still chose to wear this coat that was similar to a radiation suit. Senior Mia, it's the plague outside the city. Do you think it's the plague brought by the old king who appeared a year ago? Flora and the team was a little nervous when dealing with this unknown and dangerous matter. After all, the severity of the matter and the related description were far more serious than the bounty missions that Flora usually encountered. It must be related. Once infected, you'll definitely die. Mia said this deliberately to scare the junior out of her confidence. Don't listen to her nonsense. The nature of the old king is completely different from this incident. We need to investigate more to know the specific situation. Mia, stop scaring the junior. Ha ha, I'm just kidding. Han Dong didn't want anyone to be a burden because of pressure. He stared at the junior seriously and said, during the mission, you just need to follow the knight captain closely. We'll take care of some basic problems. Okay, thank you, senior. I'll do my best to help. Okay, after the three returned, Knight Priscilla had already opened the map of the quarantine area. The quarantine area covered 2 civilian areas, occupying about 1/3 of the first level of the Holy City. It was in the opposite direction of the civilian area where this secret stone incident happened. We're in charge of quarantining the Eastern District, which is an area where mild and moderate infections are more concentrated. The number of infected people inside isn't very high. Our mysticism department's main job is to eliminate as many infected people as possible, especially those hidden in the deepest parts of the city. If we can find out the source of the Red Plague, or find some clues, we will be rewarded handsomely. Which one of you is good at probing perception? What's the range? In fact, both Han Dong and Mia could do the same. It was just that Han Dong had more means. Han Dong raised his hand. It can cover 500 meters in one direction and 30 meters in all directions. Huh, what do you major in? Priscilla was a little surprised. This kind of probing ability had already reached the knight level. In fact, Han Dong was still a little conservative. This kind of detection range was under the condition that he didn't use development. If he went all out, the detection range could be doubled. I have dabbled in plagues and sorcery. I hope you didn't exaggerate your ability. Then, I'll leave the job of probing to you. Our main goal is to solve the worm's nest and investigate the source of infection hidden in the depths. Okay, the knight turned to Mia and Flora. My 2 juniors, give me a brief explanation or show me your abilities so that I can make arrangements. Spider sorcery and good at swordsmanship. With the support of a good destiny weapon, the damage is not bad. While Mia was giving a brief explanation, Flora had already taken out all the suturing materials that she had prepared in advance and opened a magic circle blueprint to activate it. A large graveyard giant corpse was created. It was a 2.5-meter strong giant corpse. Its important joints were stitched with a type of demonic beast tendon. It also held a giant axe that emitted a cold light in its hand. It was a green quality equipment. Just from this point alone, this Flora should be ranked in the upper middle of the lower grades. Not bad. Let's go. The quarantine method used the double insurance mode of barrier plus barrier. The Holy Knights used a giant holy light barrier to cover the quarantine area. If this kind of infected body that was mixed with evil aura wanted to forcefully pass through the holy light barrier, they would have to pay a huge price. At the same time, the Blacksmith Association built a 7-meter high blockade wall next to the barrier. Anyone who entered had to go through a strict identity verification and take a blood sample. Good luck. The inspection of the intruders was completed. The staff turned the hydraulic valve and opened the inner door. Han Dong saw a completely different red civilian area. The red mist that filled the air was unusually conspicuous. Some bloodworms with bright red sacs on their tails came into view. Those flying bloodworms with wings would be shot down by the blacksmith fort as soon as they approached the border. or they would hit the surface of the barrier and be burned to ashes by the holy light. The dirty streets and dilapidated bungalows were also crawling with all kinds of bloodworms. Ha ha! In addition to the visual abnormality, all kinds of strange laughter echoed in the quarantine area. Just as the information stated, the infected people would laugh for no reason due to the influence of their hypothalamus. This kind of laughter would become stronger when the infection reached the third stage. They could judge and locate the infected people through their laughter. Of course, there were also special cases. For example, some infected people would take the initiative to remove their vocal cords. When this kind of laughter was transmitted to Han Dong's mind, Clown's arm immediately showed a feedback reaction. It violently struggled to break free from the restraints, but it was of no use. The estimated time is 3 hours. Without my permission, no one is allowed to leave the team. Don't be too nervous. There are many teams moving at the same time as us. Just do your part and do your best to clean up the worm nest. There should be a worm nest in the alley about 128 meters away from us at 11 o'clock. As soon as they stepped into the quarantine area, Han Dong had already locked on to the target 100 meters away and gave a very precise location. When Priscilla rushed to the entrance of the alley, she found a human worm nest that had completely adhered to the damp wall of the alley. The abdominal cavity had expanded to a width of more than 2 meters. There were many flesh holes on the surface of the skin to facilitate the entry and exit of the bloodworms. The body's hands and feet had completely degenerated and adhered to the wall. Only the head was intact. Even though the vocal cords had been removed, the silent laughter was still going on, so much so that the corners of the mouth were completely torn. The dried blood stains dyed the wound red, revealing a terrifying, tearing smile. At this moment, the worm nest sensed the presence of living beings and immediately sent out a kind of ultrasonic wave. In an instant, dozens of strange-looking bloodworms surrounded Han Dong and the others. Chapter 452. Take note of their mouth parts, serrated limbs, and the body fluids they spray out. They can spread the plague efficiently. Take care of them while avoiding their attacks. I'll destroy the hive. You guys deal with these little things. Then, Night Priscilla walked toward the hive in the depths of the alley. The proliferating tissues and small larvae in the alley were immediately entangled with a dark curse when they approached the curse-type night. Their bodies disintegrated in a short time. At the same time, the adult bloodworms that were summoned back by the hive immediately showed their ferocity and attacked. Mia, I'll leave this to you. I need to leave for a while. Got it. At critical moments, Mia was still very reliable. Han Dong waved his left hand gently. A strand of yellow sand wrapped around the fat bloodworm. He then turned around and crashed onto the roof. He was not slacking. From Han Dong's observation, these mature bloodworms were not particularly difficult to deal with. They were not even comparable to the lowest level evil filth outside the city. Mia could kill them all by herself, not to mention that there was also a junior who was quite strong. Han Dong left because he needed to carefully analyze and test what the red plague was. The bloodworms that were completely bound by the yellow sand could not move at all. The sharp mouth parts hidden under their smooth skin were constantly expanding and contracting. Once they got close to a living creature, they would quickly suck the blood dry. A metal-rimmed syringe appeared in Han Dong's palm. When the syringe pierced in, the half-meter-long bloodworm immediately shriveled. Han Dong's special syringe had an extraction effect. It could directly extract the essence of the bloodworm. Only less than 1 milliliter of blood was extracted from the drained worm, but it was enough for Han Dong to do some research and analysis. Portable prison, biological laboratory. 1 milliliter of blood was poured into a test tube and analyzed through the instrument. Just as Han Dong returned to the laboratory with a drop of blood, the clown's arm that was bound to the instrument struggled violently. A big red mouth split open on the surface of the arm. What is this? Where did you get this mad laugh's blood? Mad laugh's blood? What's that? Even Han Dong was curious after hearing what the clown's arm said. The clown, Pennywise, had actually given Han Dong a name he had never heard of regarding the strange plague that had broken out in the Holy City. Yes, you heard the laughter, didn't you? The mad laughter mixed in the blood has the same origin as my mad laughter. Can I have a taste of the blood? As he spoke, the clown's arm couldn't help but spit out a long gray tongue. Splat! Unexpectedly, Han Dong grabbed his tongue and gently pulled it out. Io, what are you doing? Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Tell me in detail what mad laughter's. If you perform well enough, it's not impossible to give you some of this blood. As Han Dong spoke, he sent the test tube containing the blood into the detector. In the information provided by the Knights about the Red Plague, the giggling phenomenon was only attributed to the side effects of the infection that suppressed the hypothalamus. However, from what the clown's arm said, this strange laughter seemed to have a deeper meaning. Mad laughter? It's a branch of madness. My main body is a townsman with a madness attribute. The reason why my main body is so strong is because of my constant mad laughter. When I fell into the abyss of madness, I was able to break free from the shackles of the inner world and escape through the sewers. The blood you brought has this component, but it's very thin. Compared to my main body, it's a far cry. I just want to have a taste of the mad laughter blood of other life forms, nothing else. A branch of madness? You mean to say that a life form mixed with this blood only needs to laugh continuously to grow? That's pretty much it. Hey, Nicholas, when can you give me some blood? Before the clown's arm finished speaking, Han Dong used the bandage to gag the arm's mouth. Mad laughter. Interesting information. At this time, the test report was generated. Low-level insect servant blood from Scarlet Mountain Villa. Blood brew content. 0.03% pathogenic rate to the main body. 0%. Unable to cause the main body to be infected. Introduction. This insect servant born from an ordinary human-infected person only contains a very small amount of blood brew in its body. The threat is very low. Special noun analysis. Blood brew is a kind of cursed blood produced by Scarlet Mountain Villa with mental pollution. It can directly affect any living creature. Blood brew will give the individual a strong desire for blood and the mad laughter attribute. Through blood modification, the individual will obtain indescribable regeneration, aberration, and powerful strength. The evil formed by drinking blood brew is stronger than ordinary evil and easier to grow. But in the end, it can only move toward the abyss of madness, and it is difficult to maintain the rationality during the growth process. Blood brew. Scarlet Mountain Villa? The faceless head knows a lot. Also, this clown didn't lie to me. There really is a mad laughter attribute. Things are getting interesting. Han Dong left the prison. The situation in the alley had been dealt with. The cursed knight directly inserted her palm into the target hive. Withering curse, the hive quickly withered and died. In addition, the surrounding insects were all dealt with by Mia and the little junior. Of course, Mia alone could deal with it. The protective clothing on everyone's body was intact, and there was no blood invasion. Not bad. Knight Priscilla was a little surprised by the performance of this group of apprentice knights. From her point of view, it was absolutely impossible for her to do such efficient reconnaissance and killing when she was a student. What's more, this incident was at the knight level, and the pressure was completely different from ordinary incidents. This group of students could deal with it calmly. At this moment, standing on the roof, Han Dong continued to give the reconnaissance information. At 4 o'clock, the second floor of the 98-meter bungalow. At 9 o'clock, 189 meters in the sewer. And at 12 o'clock, 319 meters in the shop building. Han Dong reported the location of 3 hives in a row. How did you do it? Priscilla was surprised. I rely on perception to make a living, so I'm naturally better than others. This was not just better. The perception-type knights that Priscilla knew might only be able to do this. The situation was exactly the same. The knight was responsible for dealing with the main body of the hive, and the other 3 were responsible for eliminating the bloodworms. In half an hour, all 3 hives were dealt with. Priscilla took out a piece of concentrated blood crystal from the remains of the hive as a trophy to exchange for the reward. Just when everyone was ready to continue, Han Dong frowned. At 7 o'clock, 300 meters away from us in the backyard area, there's something strange. Chapter 453. Isolation Area. Han Dong's detection ability mainly relied on crow spells and plague perception. When a crow was searching the dormitory 300 meters away, it discovered a hidden area. However, when the crow went deeper into the area, it was directly devoured by an extremely fast red object. Han Dong could not even see what it was. It was far more threatening than the hive. The information given by the Knights about the Red Plague is just some superficial information. According to my analysis of blood brew is the key factor that determines the strength of this type of life form. If it's just a simple, low-level infected person, there's no need for all the apprentice knights to participate in this plague purge. After a brief consideration, Han Dong turned around and asked Knight Priscilla. Knight Priscilla, other than the third stage of infection described in the document, is there a higher and deeper infection? The infected body 300 meters away is completely different from the hive we come into contact with so far. The female knight stroked her seaweed-like hair again and nodded in response. Yes, it seems that you've discovered something big. There are indeed 4-stage infections, but because of the high threat, it's easy to write it down in the document and frighten the apprentice knights and hinder the following actions. Moreover, the number of this high-grade mutation is very small. It basically won't appear in the border area, so we didn't write it in the document. Only a very small number of civilians can mutate to the 4th stage. Most of the bodies have been squeezed to the extreme by the Red Plague in the 3rd stage and have completely lost their human form. The 3 of you have good qualities. We can try to deal with it. If it's really a 4th-stage infection, once we kill it, we'll receive a generous reward. After all, no one could easily earn a large sum of money like Demps. For ordinary knights, it was very difficult to earn money in the Holy City. With such an opportunity, anyone would want to earn more rewards in the process of making a contribution so that they could buy the equipment and materials they wanted. Let's go and take a look. Han Dong was also interested in this matter, especially when new definitions such as blood brew and mad laughter were given. Han Dong wanted to find out the essence of the problem. While moving forward in the isolated area, other than the various crimson bugs, there were many other crimson bugs. Occasionally, they would see residents who looked normal but kept laughing crazily. Ordinary residents of the 2nd stage had yet to undergo physical changes. Because of the pressure on the thalamus, they can't stop laughing. Because they suffer from thirst syndrome, they will also take the initiative to attack normal people. Knowing that laughter would give them away, some residents chose to sew their mouths shut with a needle and thread. However, the suturing could only stop the sound, but it could not stop the act of laughing maniacally. Their facial muscles twitched violently, tearing the corners of their mouths. They could only continue to suture the wounds. As a result, the image of the laughing maniac was rather frightening. The sutured wound that reached her earlobe looked like a crazy laughing mouth. Armed with self-made weapons, they flew out from various dark corners and attempted to attack Han Dong and his group. Their thirst for blood made them fearless of anyone. However, this type of infected person would only be sending their heads to their deaths. After clearing out everything along the way, they successfully arrived at the dormitory that Han Dong had pointed out. Sizzle, Mia's spider sense, also issued a warning at this moment. It seemed that something dangerous was hidden in this building. Knight Priscilla looked puzzled. Are you sure it's in this building? For a dormitory like this, the Knight Regiment had already asked other teams, such as the Crusader, to cooperate with the Control, which had a perception-type summon, to carry out a comprehensive search. Basically, every corner has been cleaned up, and generally, there will not be any missed situations. Han Dong stepped lightly on the ground with his right foot. It can only mean that they didn't search thoroughly. The target is below. Below? Well, follow me. Han Dong's crow could drill into any corner, and with the crow's eye, he could see any detail. Creak, the sound of the door axle rubbing. At the end of the first floor, the room corresponding to the dormitory manager was located. A burnt smell immediately overflowed from the inside. The Crusaders' method of dealing with the infected was quite straightforward. After killing with a weapon in hand, the remains left behind were directly burned with flames. All kinds of charred remains and insect remains were piled up in the room. Han Dong stepped over the insect remains and reached out to move the inner wall lamp. A hidden secret passage opened at the bottom of the dining table. Thick red blood mist overflowed from inside, severely interfering with Han Dong's perception ability. The big thing, I sensed, is below. From the ash layer and footprints in the stairwell, the previous team probably didn't discover this basement. Also, my perception ability is very limited down here. Everyone, slow down, while all of you follow behind me. Be careful. Although Priscilla maintained her composure, she had already developed a great interest in this young man. Such sharp detection ability was comparable to a knight's. After this, she would return to the Mystic Branch to ask about this young man's identity. I'll bring up the rear. Everyone, pay attention. Okay, Mia had already placed her palm lightly on the demon sword. Flora, on the other hand, leaned closely in front of her giant, sutured corpse, slightly afraid. Priscilla, wait. Han Dong vaguely saw something through the blood mist, but when he shouted out, he was one step too slow. Knight Priscilla at the front stepped on a trap hidden in the stairwell. Asterisk splash. Asterisk, a large amount of red liquid splashed on the team. The giant sutured corpses that didn't wear protective clothing turned into a pool of blood in a short time. Take off your protective clothing, Han Dong shouted. Before the red liquid seeped into their protective clothing, everyone took it off. Because of this, their bodies were directly exposed to the blood mist. After Flora inhaled it, a few red spots appeared on her face. Mia immediately took off her mask and released a curse, using the spider domain to resist the blood mist and prevent it from invading. As for Han Dong and Knight Priscilla, they weren't affected. Mia, take Junior out of the basement. Leave this place to me and Knight Priscilla. Hearing that they could get out of danger, Mia was naturally willing. Just as the two of them were about to leave, asterisk boom. Asterisk, the opening to the surface suddenly closed. Some squirming sounds could even be heard from above. It seemed that some blood bugs had gathered together and completely sealed the opening. Since you discovered this place, how could I let you escape? Honorable Sir Knight and 3 young apprentice knights, the fresh blood in your bodies is making me unable to suppress my desire. A flame lit up when the team saw the true face of the owner of the basement. Even though Flora was wearing a pair of goggles, her eyes were still bloodshot. Scarlet Mountain Villa, Pound J. Williams, welcome. Chapter 454. The fire was ignited. A humanoid life form came into view. It wore a silver, curly wig and a dark blue noble costume. Its empty eye sockets were filled with small eyeballs. A sharp mouth part similar to a mosquito replaced its nose structure. Its completely torn mouth was smeared with a refined liquid lipstick. There was a vertical crack in the middle of its lower lip. When it opened its mouth, its chin and neck could be opened, revealing a wriggling dark red straw. In addition, the lower end of its noble costume seemed to hide a body structure similar to a worm's body. Its lower body had completely transformed into a fat worm's body, ruddy and full, which seemed to correspond to the important blood sac area. When the name Scarlet Mountain Villa was given, Knight Priscilla, who was leading the team, immediately showed a surprised expression. The big thing that Han Dong detected was not a 4th-stage infected body at all. It was a guest from outside the city, although it had not reached the level of the hybrid demon. It was also an existence infinitely close to the hybrid demon, almost at the same level as Dr. Swollen. At the same time, due to the special effect of the blood wine, such a scarlet servant was stronger than the same level. It was enough to threaten an ordinary knight. In general, it was impossible for an apprentice knight to have the ability to fight against such an existence. Knight Priscilla waved her hand and blocked everyone behind her. This thing is not something you can deal with. Find a place to avoid the battle, or find a way to destroy the exit and escape. Your body has been exposed to this high-concentration blood mist for a long time, and there's a possibility of being infected. Think of a way to protect yourself. I can't take care of you now. Okay, let's destroy the exit. Mia's only thought was to escape. It was the first time she had seen such a scarlet life form. With insufficient information and easy to be infected, she was not willing to take the risk. Okay, we'll wait for you at the exit. Han Dong found that the little junior's face had grown red spots. She had been infected and had to be sent out of the underground area first. Mia, carry the junior. Got it. Mia used the spider legs on her back to easily carry the junior and quickly moved forward in the stairwell. Han Dong glanced at the scarlet servant, who was in such a strange posture, and left for the time being. The exit of the basement had been blocked by a kind of red cyst, which gave people a feeling that it would explode with a touch. After the explosion, the blood would quickly invade the human body. Life extraction, he gently turned his left hand. Without touching the cyst, the blood energy stored inside was easily drained, and the remaining skin turned into black sand. Of course, Han Dong wouldn't absorb the blood that was drawn out to avoid being infected by the scarlet curse. Just like that, Han Dong easily broke through the scarlet servant's seal and returned to the surface. Wow, so powerful. Cough, cough. While the junior was surprised, she coughed twice, and the red spots on her skin kept increasing. Do you need me to send my junior out to receive treatment from the holy city? No, I'll treat him. The main reason Han Dong escaped from the basement was to see if he could treat the infection. If he could, Han Dong would be able to easily deal with the infection in the future. Eye-opening. When the little magic eye opened, the junior's body was completely seen, and the blood flow in her body could be seen clearly. Has it already invaded the entire blood circulation system? Since it's a blood disease mixed with a curse, it needs to be removed at the same time to be completely cured. Plague control was fully activated. A powerful control over bacteria and viruses immediately took effect on the junior's body. All the infectious components mixed in the blood were gathered in one area. When the gathering was completed, asterisk whoosh, asterisk the plague doctor's short blade quickly cut open the artery on the side of the junior's thigh. Desertification. The infected blood that was gathered in one area turned into yellow sand and was completely removed. The red spots on the junior's body immediately stopped growing and slowly disappeared. Fortunately, it's only in the first stage. If it enters the brain, it won't be so simple. You should be able to stop the bleeding by yourself, right? Flora used the thin thread that suturing apprentices always carried with them and quickly stitched the artery and the wound. Thank you, Senior. Well, you and Mia can stay up here. I'll go down and take a look. Flora, whose life was saved by Han Dong, immediately asked worriedly, Senior, didn't Knight Priscilla say that we can't deal with that thing? Will you be in danger? However, Han Dong didn't answer her question at all and quickly returned to the basement. At this moment, Mia retracted the spider legs on her back and moved closer to the junior. She reached out and touched the junior's thigh that had just been stitched up. What are you worried about? This is my man. Besides, there's nothing for you to worry about. This thing isn't a threat. I understand, Senior. The thing from Scarlet Mountain Villa actually came to the Holy City. Unfortunately, the area infected by the Red Plague this time is opposite of the Secret Stone incident. If it wasn't done by the same person, I would find it strange. If such a huge scourge isn't removed, the Holy City will really be in danger. As Han Dong slowly walked down the stairs, a young girl's voice sounded in his head. What are these bright red life forms? Can you let me out to help you? The one who urged him was naturally Nicole. Han Dong spent a lot of effort to make her stay in the prison. In the end, he used various novels to read in the Holy City to make Nicole stay in the prison to read. It's not the time for you to come out yet. If we have to go out of the city to the so-called Scarlet Mountain Villa, I'll let you out then. Okay. When Han Dong was halfway down, he could already vaguely see the battle situation below. Logically speaking, if an official knight used his full strength, he could completely deal with such a scarlet servant that had not yet reached the level of hybrid demon. Perhaps it was because of the special power given by the blood brew. Perhaps it was the blood fog environment in the basement that allowed the scarlet servant to continuously absorb and obtain an endless supply of vitality. Knight Priscilla was unable to gain the upper hand. A bone-piercing nail, a curse-type weapon for close combat, and a barnacle for long-range curses were held in Knight Priscilla's hands. Together with the curse field released by her, she could continuously apply various types of curses on the target in battle. But this kind of scarlet life is permanently burdened with a unique curse from the blood brew. This causes the effect of other curses on them to be greatly weakened. Moreover, once this guy is invaded by the curse, he will immediately cut off his limbs, dig out his flesh, and use the help of the blood fog to quickly regenerate. This Knight Priscilla is not good at other attacks other than curses. Show a little of your skills. Maybe you can even extract a higher concentration of blood brew from this servant that directly belongs to Scarlet Mountain Villa. Chapter 455. Such a weak knight dares to come to me. If I can bring your head and metal back, I can exchange it for more blood wine. It's really a gift sent to my door, ha. He laughed wildly. Pound, who came from Scarlet Mountain Villa, had already completely revealed his true appearance under his clothes. In addition to the worm-like lower body, his arms also turned into giant mantis scythes, which can easily cut the rock wall, and also has the unique scarlet attribute of Scarlet Mountain Villa. Once the target's body is cut, there is a certain chance of infection. At the same time, it can also prevent regeneration and release a kind of blood nematode to carry out a deeper invasion. Because of the strengthening of blood wine, this servant possessed agility, reflexes, and self-healing abilities that far exceeded those of ordinary foulness. Moreover, in its completely cracked chin, there are crimson tentacles floating in the air, which will bring great mental pressure to the knight. Once touched by this crimson tentacle, its tip will turn into a needle, and a living thing can be sucked dry in an instant. Because the curse attribute is targeted. With the current means of Knight Priscilla, it is difficult to hurt the body of this scarlet servant, and this stalemate will be dangerous. That group of apprentice knights is really good. They can actually break the blockade set up by the other party. This scarlet creature is extremely resistant to curses. I can't kill it. I have to find a way to get out of here and report the situation to the knights. Huh, what are you thinking? Scarlet Pound seized the opportunity when the knight was thinking and suddenly accelerated. Schwa, something was cut open. As expected of a knight, this can be avoided. Priscilla used a curse on herself to speed up and avoid as much as possible. But the clothes were still cut open, and a long hole was left in the abdomen, barely cutting the dermal tissue. Some kind of blood nematode that is difficult to catch with the naked eye remains in the wound, tried to invade further, but it was immediately affected by the withering curse and died. Even so, the blood mist in the air hovered around the wound, not letting the wound heal. Damn it. Just as Priscilla was about to use high-level curse methods to strengthen herself and escape. A large number of black crows suddenly flew between the corridors. The dangerous crows flew close to her body and quickly surrounded the scarlet servant. Crow. The first thing that came to Priscilla's mind when she saw the crow was Mr. Black and White, the highest manager of the mystery branch. At the same time, a human figure flashed between the crows. Priscilla caught sight of a mysterious man wearing a bird's mouth mask and a black feather robe. Through comparison of some physical details, she could see that this person was a scout in her team. This is Nicholas? Why can you use crow magic? While she was still in shock, Han Dong had already approached the scarlet servant. Ga. Dozens of crows tore at the target's flesh with their sharp beaks. Their main purpose was to interfere. Where did this little thing come from? The scarlet servant was not willing to let its target escape. It immediately tore its chin, neck, and even its chest apart, Squeak, squeak, hundreds of red, tubular tentacles grew out of its split body. In a short period of time, all the crows created by magic were sucked dry. Just as the Scarlet Servant was feeling proud of his achievement, the Scarlet Servant turned around. A hand reached out from behind it and gently patted its shoulder. As expected, your main ability is absorption, not destruction. Does it feel good to suck my crows into your body? The one who gently patted its shoulder was Han Dong. When he first released the crows to investigate this place, Han Dong was certain of the Scarlet Servant's absorption characteristics. Currently, the dozens of crows that had been absorbed had all turned into magic energy and accumulated in the Scarlet Servant's body. Han Dong only needed to do one thing. With the touch of his palm, he detonated all the magic energy in the servant's body. When the Scarlet Servant felt the chaotic energy in its body, its face was ferocious. Boom! Its upper body was completely blown up and a thick blood mist spread out. During the explosion, Han Dong used the cover of the blood mist and quietly held the metal syringe in his hand. Squeak! The needle was quickly inserted into its fat blood sac, buttocks. For a moment, the Scarlet Servant's lower body was completely shriveled. The amount of blood extracted was significantly higher and thicker than the amount of bloodworms before. The syringe was immediately taken back by Han Dong. It's still not dead. Han Dong saw the insect body fragments scattered on the ground. It was still absorbing the blood mist in the air and slowly converging towards a larger piece of minced meat. Ha ha! Ha! Not only that, but one of the pieces of meat connected to the vocal cords was still laughing wildly. Yellow sand secret technique. He raised his left hand. The yellow sand immediately covered the basement area. All the broken bodies disintegrated into sand, and the laughter disappeared immediately. The Scarlet Servant was completely dead. What a tenacious vitality. It's just a servant of the villa. Is the effect of blood wine so strong? Such a smooth process of extermination was seen by Knight Priscilla. She couldn't evaluate this young and thin student. In the beginning, Han Dong showed the detection ability equivalent to that of a knight. If Han Dong himself had no combat ability at all, it would be reasonable to say that he put all his energy into the cultivation of detection ability. However, Han Dong flexibly used crow magic and used the opponent's absorption ability to detonate and destroy the intruder from within his body. He almost instantly killed the intruder of Scarlet Mountain Villa. This was something that Knight Priscilla couldn't understand. Are you an official knight hidden in the academy? This was the only reason Priscilla could think of. Senior sister, you think too much. I'm just a mystery apprentice. I studied under Black and White. Mr. Black and White student. She occasionally heard the news that Mr. Black and White was recruiting students, but she always thought it was a rumor. After all, as a former mystery apprentice, she knew very well that Mr. Black and White was busy. Not only was he the dean, but he also had to divine the possible threats that the holy city might face. He had no time to teach students. She didn't expect that this was actually true, and this student was right in front of her. In this way, the strange crow magic just now could be understood. Senior sister's curse just happened to be restrained by this creature. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to do anything. Scarlet Mountain Villa is a new force that just appeared. As expected, this red plague is related to them. We have to report this information to the Night Legion. Wait, senior sister, where is Scarlet Mountain Villa located outside the city? It's about 100 kilometers north of the city in the Alagad Mountains. As expected, in this way, the information overlapped. It just so happened that Abel Ryan's target was also in this mountain range. What is the president of the Writers Association planning? Chapter 456. While Han Dong was talking to the senior, the yellow sand that covered the basement slowly dissipated. A wisp of yellow sand rolled up the strange residue in the Scarlet Servant's body and secretly handed it to Han Dong without anyone noticing. Priscilla stared at the receding yellow sand with a dumbfounded expression. Crow spells were one thing. What was going on with the yellow sand? Even the library knights that she knew were rarely proficient in this kind of magic. What are you doing? Minor in the library. I know some basic spells. Minor. You call this a little? Priscilla's observation skills were not bad at all. She clearly saw that Han Dong only raised his left hand. He did not chant or make any extra casting movements. He directly used his arm as a carrier to release the yellow sand spell that covered the basement. When a meat came into contact with the yellow sand, it was not just the moisture that was extracted. It was the complete transformation of the silicon crystal. Senior, let's hurry up and check if there are any clues about the red plague in the basement, and then report the situation here to the knights. Okay. The senior pushed aside her seaweed-like hair and shifted her attention from Han Dong to the strange and bright red basement. What was certain was that this scarlet servant had carried out a terrifying experiment down there. Judging from the time on the experiment log, it had been lurking down there for at least a month. However, it did not produce any results. It only carried out red extraction blindly. It even cultivated some bright red plants and tried to condense blood wine through the fruits of the plants, but it ended in failure. Take the experiment book, some concentrated reagents, and fruits, and leave this place quickly. Because of the intruders outside the city, the team returned to the sealed high wall area. After a detailed physical examination, it was confirmed that none of the team members were infected with the red plague and successfully left the quarantine area. A person in charge of the Holy Knights took over Han Dong's team and received the relevant clues and information. Well done. The things you provided are very important. The relevant rewards will be given later. Did the other squads notice the Scarlet Servant as well? Priscilla asked. Yes, but very few. At present, we can basically confirm that the origin of the Red Plague came from the invasion of Scarlet Life Forms. These Scarlet Servants haven't reached the hybrid demon level yet. How did they enter the Holy City? Priscilla was very puzzled. At present, Commander Olivia has personally led a team deep into the quarantine zone. She is currently searching for ways and means for the Scarlet Life Forms to sneak in. The Holy City may be carrying out a comprehensive renovation of the abandoned sewers. Did the commander of your Holy Knights make a move personally? Looks like this plague will be stabilized soon, but we should be carrying out a crusade in the future, right? I don't know. Let's just listen to the higher-ups. Just like that, because Han Dong and the others had killed a Scarlet Servant, they had completed their workload ahead of time. This group mission had come to an end for the time being. They would leave the quarantine zone to the other teams to deal with. Knight Priscilla, if there's nothing else here, we'll go to the church to receive baptism and relieve our stress. Okay, go back and rest. The female knight stared at Han Dong's figure as he left. She was deep in thought. In the future, she would definitely find time to investigate this student's true situation. Mysticism plus library, extraordinary detection abilities, sand magic that doesn't require chanting, and a smooth battle style against such existences. I think only a monster like this would catch Mr. Black and White's attention. Finally, it's the turn of the mysticism branch to produce a top-tier talent. This kid will definitely shine in the night selection. I must find time to check him out. Rumble, rumble, the wooden wheels of the carriage rolled on the uneven road. Han Dong, Mia, and Flora had already received their baptism and were relieved of their stress. Nicholas, why don't we continue to hunt for the hives and other infected creatures in the quarantine zone? I heard that we can get 10 copper coins for killing a third-stage infected creature. With your detection abilities, you can at least earn us a few hundred copper coins, right? There's no need, and there's a risk. If there's a member of the Scarlet Mountain Villa who has reached the level of hybrid demon, hiding in there and accidentally bumped into us, it'll be really troublesome. The senior knight leading the team isn't good at dealing with this kind of Scarlet Life Form. Plus, our protective suits are damaged, and it's easy for us to be infected. Thank you, Senior. Flora knew very well that she was the one who was easily infected. It was because of this that Han Dong chose to leave the quarantine zone. Okay, that's all for today. The carriage arrived at the station, and the little girl left. However, Mia had no intention of leaving. She decided to stick with Han Dong all day long. Mia held Han Dong's arm and whispered in his ear, "Are you hiding something from me? Did you get some hidden information when you killed that scarlet servant?" While Mia was asking, rumble, rumble, another exquisite carriage rushed over. It was young brother Demps who got off the carriage. Mia immediately knew that her world with Han Dong was completely over, and she immediately made a face at Demps. "Come here and talk." The three of them had a certain connection with the outside of the city. Han Dong got the mysterious item from the Scarlet Servant's body, and he needed to discuss it with everyone. It wasn't because he was worried that the little girl would be infected. The main reason Han Dong chose to leave the quarantine zone was because of this mysterious item. The location of the three of them was still Demps's room. Such a high-class room was also top-notch in terms of soundproofing. "Demps, didn't you go to the quarantine zone to carry out a mission? This kind of thing can be avoided if I tell teacher Hera." "Oh, could it be that the vice captain discovered something special in the quarantine zone? This thing, I found it in her body after I killed a scarlet servant." In Han Dong's hand was an envelope covered with black and red lines, with a long wax seal stamped on the seal. Ordinary people couldn't decipher the words on the wax seal. Han Dong and Demps could read it immediately. "Scarlet Mountain Villa Invitation. This." Demps was shocked and quickly pulled the curtains to prevent others from seeing the letter. Mia, on the other hand, acted like she didn't know anything. "Demps, do you know something?" "Since the last time Abel's target wandered around the Adelaga mountain range, I learned from a friend that there is a special organization in the Adelaga mountain range, Scarlet Mountain Villa. This group of scarlet life forms that belong to a certain old king are entrenched in a hidden area in the mountains and will attack any life forms that step into their territory. It might be related to Abel's target, the hybrid demons, or it might not be. I also know something special. Scarlet Mountain Villa will send out invitations to all kinds of demons, monsters, and inhumans every year. Gain Forest is also within their range. Only those who are invited can safely go to the villa and participate in their banquet. Drink the blood wine, exclusively produced by the Old King." Chapter 457. Han Dong knew very well that the friends that Demps mentioned were those outside the city. Han Dong looked puzzled. The purpose of sending out invitations is to let all kinds of lives go to the villa to drink the blood brew, which is to indirectly rope in other forces and make them a member of the Scarlet Villa. By the way, why are these invitations sent to the Holy City? Mia suddenly thought of something and immediately continued. "Right. Some time ago, the witch told me about something. When the night squad was investigating outside the city, all of them went missing. It seems that their destination is the Adelaga mountain range that you mentioned." The information that Mia gave was very important. The blood brew can give any life a strong power, and humans are no exception. If the missing night squad had something to do with the Scarlet Mountain Villa, perhaps some of the knights had been forced to drink blood and had undergone extraordinary changes. Therefore, this group of crazy guys wanted to send invitations to the Holy City, hoping that some human knights could participate in the Red Banquet. Of course, the Scarlet Villa invasion must also be related to the mole in the Holy City. Demps pointed at the invitation. "What do you plan to do with this?" Han Dong crossed his hands and held his chin. "It depends. I think that many people will receive such an invitation. Based on the current situation, killing the servant would probably drop an invitation. Such a servant is hidden in a secret place in the plague area, and its strength is not weak. Only a knight with sufficient probing ability and strength would be able to kill and obtain an invitation letter. Could it be that the Scarlet Villa deliberately arranged a screening mechanism? Only those who meet the requirements can get the invitation? Thinking about it, there will definitely be a group of knights who will get the invitation. When the incident is over, the knights may make a move. We will talk about it when the time comes." Demps seemed to have noticed something from Han Dong's words and actions. "Vice Captain, don't tell me you really want to go to the Scarlet Villa?" Han Dong did not deny it and nodded. "I am indeed more interested in the blood brew. Moreover, we have accepted Mr. Black and White's request, so we will definitely go to the Adelaga mountain range. If nothing unexpected happens, when the plague in the city is over, Mr. Black will find us." That's true. Demps had made ample preparations over the past few months and could leave the city at any time. Mia looked surprised. "What? Mr. Black and White asked you to go to Scarlet Mountain Villa? Something like that. Are you going, Mia?" Mia looked embarrassed. Although she really wanted to stay with Han Dong, she didn't want to take the risk. You also know that this scarlet life form has a very high resistance to curses. I might not be able to deal with it. Moreover, I'm still preparing for the Destiny Realm. I'm not like you guys who are already thinking about breaking the seed. Yes, today's matter is not allowed to spread out. Of course I know, but Mia suddenly stuck close to Han Dong. The scale of the Scarlet Mountain Villa is definitely much larger than the Stewart Manor. The corresponding title deed should also be of a higher grade. You guys definitely have to be careful. Even if it's Nicholas, you can still die. It would be best if he could go with the knights. You're not allowed to die. Otherwise, I'll be very lonely. If you're willing to go, my chances of dying will be lower. You're so annoying. I still have my own things to do. Otherwise, I'll definitely go. Haha, okay. I suddenly remembered that I have to go back to see the witch. In a few days, I'll go to the Destiny Realm. Bye. If everyone had reached the level of an official knight, Mia might have agreed. At this stage, she definitely wouldn't go to the Scarlet Mountain Villa. In order to ease the awkwardness, she had to find an excuse to leave. Demps, how are the preparations? Almost there. It depends on when Mr. Black and White will summon us. It was just as Han Dong expected. After the Red Plague incident in the civilian area was dealt with, after the related rewards were distributed, Han Dong was summoned by Mr. Black and White. He asked the 3 outstanding youths to gather in the stargazing room. What? The knights aren't going to go? Han Dong thought that since the Scarlet Life had caused such a big commotion in the Holy City, the Parliament would definitely decide to let the knights directly destroy this Scarlet Mountain Villa. It's not as simple as you think. Moreover, the Great Expedition is approaching. It's not the time to casually consume the troops. Another important reason is that the Scarlet Mountain Villa is under the protection of an old king. Because of the old king's incident in the Stewart Manor a year ago, the Holy City is currently very cautious when considering the corresponding area of the title deed. Han Dong nodded. They definitely didn't find out who led the Scarlet Life into the city, right? If it was really that simple, I wouldn't have spent so much effort to deal with this traitor. Moreover, the Parliament is still investigating this traitor and has temporarily restricted access to the city gate. Restricted access to the city? Then do we still have to continue the plan? Of course. It's just that they can't temporarily apply to leave the city. Even Captain Keeman can't send the Behemoth Knights to escort Abel to his destination. Then how do we get out of the city? If it was just Han Dong and the other 2 trainee knights going out of the city alone and going to the dangerous area 100 kilometers away, it would be a suicidal act. Captain Keeman, I've already talked to Deputy Principal Hera. Tonight, you will blend into a special night team and secretly go to the Adelaga Mountains to help Abel complete the seed breaking. At the same time, think of a way to lure the traitor in the Holy City to make a move and collect evidence. Tonight, what night team? You'll naturally know when the time comes. This team has been confirmed to go out of the city to carry out an investigation mission a week ago and is not subject to the restrictions set by the Parliament. 3 hours later, you will go to the Gryffindor Tavern in front of the North City Gate to meet them and go to the destination together. Obviously, Mr. Black and White had arranged everything properly. Okay, everyone had been preparing for more than half a year. There was nothing to hesitate about. During this period of time, the one who changed the most among the 3 was Abel. After nearly a year of hellish training, Abel's overall temperament had changed. In addition to his stronger and wilder appearance, his bestial nature was exposed, and there was a different kind of determination in his eyes. A special ring with the seal of a beast was worn on Abel's finger. 9 o'clock at night. Han Dong and the others met with the mysterious night team at the place that Mr. Black and White had arranged in advance. The moment he opened the door of the private room, Han Dong was stunned. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Senior Lucius, long time no see. The person in charge of leading this special operation was the Blood Knight, Lucius Tother, who was second in line to be selected by the Scarlet Knights this year, and his companions. Chapter 458. Blood Knight, Lucius Tother Necromancer, Lun's Fiji Shadow Assassin. Jin Mikazaki. From the perspective of Blood, Lucius was indeed the most suitable candidate to lead this special operation. The three above were all excellent knights who had been selected by the Knight Legion. The three of them, who had completed the seed breaking, were completely different from before. Lucius wore a set of crimson armor that matched his slender figure. His soft long hair draped over his shoulders. He did not wear a helmet. On his handsome face, a pair of blood-red eyes stared at Han Dong, who had pushed open the door and entered. The fangs that were faintly visible between his red lips seemed to be able to take away the blood of Han Dong and the others in an instant. The overall aura he exuded was still the strongest among the three of them. As for the former apprentice Lun's, he had become an official necromancer. His thin and weak body was surrounded by strands of the aura of the dead that had never been seen before. Lun's, who had been personally selected by Grim Reaper Alex to join the Knights of Destiny, was also treated very well. He was currently wearing 3 pieces of excellent equipment that had never been seen before. A full-body bone armor that was custom-made by combining white bones and metal of destiny. A bone shield that was woven with ring-shaped white bones and embedded with skull crystals. There was also a dark magic staff that looked like it was made by nature. The quality of the 3 pieces of equipment was not low, especially the bone shield. It seemed to be epic. Han Dong had seen Senior Sister Jin in the cemetery before. Because of the sparring with Han Dong, she had further strengthened her training and seemed to be able to completely blend into the shadows. Her assassination ability was not something that ordinary knights could compare to. This was the team of knights that Mr. Black and White had deliberately arranged. Such an elite team of knights was enough to block most of the dangers. Moreover, Han Dong guessed that Blood Knight Lucius might also have some thoughts about Scarlet Mountain Villa. "Hello, Senior Sister," Lucius said in a low voice. "Mr. Black and White has already told us the basic situation. We will safely send you to the southeast of the Adelaga mountain range." "Thank you, Senior. Once we send you to your destination, we will return. As for how you return, we will not be responsible." "Okay, before we depart, I have a request. Whether or not it was Mr. Black and White's request, since you've joined my team, you have to follow my rules. During the journey, if you encounter any monster attacks, you must act according to my instructions. Also, I need you to release your blood." Lucius took out 3 exquisitely carved metal wine cups that he had prepared beforehand. "Put 50 milliliters of blood in each of you. I will establish a temporary connection by drinking your blood. If we are separated from a team, due to special circumstances, I will find you." All right. When drinking Abel's blood, Lucius could taste the primitive beast blood contained within. It was like drinking strong liquor, which made Lucius reveal a very satisfied expression. As expected of Commander Kai Meng's eldest grandson, at first, Dempsey's blood seemed ordinary when it entered his mouth, but after it entered his stomach, it burst out with extraordinary energy. Lucius glanced at this student in astonishment. He had long heard from Luan Zhe about the famous Dempus in the library, but he didn't expect him to be so impressive. Finally, when Lucius picked up Han Dong's blood, he frowned. This was because he could clearly feel that the blood contained many impurities, including pathogenic fungi, malignant viruses, and even strange sand. Normally, Lucius would never taste such inferior blood. Since he had already stated the rules in advance, he could only drink it in one gulp and say, without changing his expression, "All right, let's get ready to leave the city." When the soldiers at the city gate question your identity, they only need to say that you are knight attendants. Mr. Black and White has already dealt with them. "Okay, Everyone had just walked out of the bar. Get in the car first. I forgot to pay the bill. Lucius suddenly stopped and returned to the bar alone. The moment Blood Night, Lucius stepped into the bar with a calm expression. Whoosh! He turned into a bloody shadow and rushed to the bathroom at the fastest speed possible. He supported himself with one hand on the wall and began to vomit. At the same time, he controlled the blood in his body and separated the blood that belonged to Han Dong. What kind of filthy blood is flowing in this guy's body? It actually tried to contaminate the blood in my body. After Lucius tidied himself up, he immediately pretended that nothing had happened and walked out of the bar. This time, he needed to go to an area 100 kilometers away to conduct an investigation. He was equipped with the death carriage that Luanze rented from the Ultimate Knights. It was a ghost horse that emitted a faint blue glow. It was similar to the skeleton horses in the cemetery, but this ghost horse had higher mobility and did not need to be fed. It was a special horse that borrowed material from the Destiny space and was created through high-level necromancy spells. After showing his knight identity card, he smoothly drove out of the northern city gate. Not long after leaving the city, Han Dong quietly placed his right arm on the window and secretly released a crow. He informed the Crowman tribe in Stuart Manor that he was on his way. The atmosphere in the carriage was still slightly awkward. After all, it was difficult to completely eliminate the conflict between Han Dong and this night squad. Lucius sat by the window with his elbow on the window and his hand gently supporting his chin. His handsomeness was not inferior to Demp's at all, and he had a more elegant and unique temperament. Abel Lane, Senior, what's the matter? I heard that you're going to the Adelaga mountain range to find a newborn hybrid demon as a target to break the seed. Do you have any relevant information? Yes. Abel handed over the information that he had kept for half a year. Chromagus Dragon Beast. It seems that it has nothing to do with the Scarlet Mountain Villa on the mountain. But it's strange. Since the Scarlet Mountain Villa is under the protection of the Old King, other hybrid demons shouldn't be near it. Abel nodded in response. Yes, it's because this matter is strange that I need you to go with me. If I encounter any other trouble, I'll have to trouble you. There was no unhappiness between Lucius and Abel, and he was quite optimistic about this young junior. Well, you just have to be prepared to deal with the hybrid demons. As expected of the future successor of the leader, you actually chose a hybrid demon to break the seed. How confident are you? 30%. That high? I look forward to your performance. When the evil spirits in the forest heard the whinny of the ghost horse, they all retreated, so the journey was unimpeded. It was a short 3-hour journey. The ghost carriage smoothly carried the group through Gain Forest. The carriage stopped at the edge of a cliff. Opposite them was the endless Adelaga mountain range that towered into the clouds. However, to reach the foot of the mountain, they still had to cross the 10,000-meter-long suspension bridge in front of them. Blood. At this moment, Lucius seemed to sense something and walked toward the bridge alone. Chapter 459. Dried Human Blood. It seems to have something to do with the missing night team. Lucius found a dried blood stain on the wooden stake at the end of the bridge. The missing night team, although Han Dong had heard some information from Mia, he was not clear about the specific situation. Official knights are required to form a small team to conduct an outside investigation around the Holy City every month as investigators. Especially for newbies who have just joined the Order of Knights, the investigation outside the city is an essential experience. 3 weeks ago, due to the flash of blood, an ordinary investigation team received the mission to conduct a basic investigation in the Adelaga mountain range. The investigation did not necessarily require victory in battle. They only needed to obtain sufficient information. This team had carried out no less than 10 investigation missions before they went missing. This time, they were only asked to conduct a simple investigation in the foothills. They were allowed to retreat if they encountered a dangerous situation, but they mysteriously disappeared while exploring the Adelaga mountain range. Did they send back any information? No. Since they entered the range of the mountain range, there has been no signal at all. Han Dong nodded. Captain Lucius, Do you want to return to the Holy City now or continue to cross the bridge? We promised Mr. Black and White that we would escort you to the bottom of the mountain range. Naturally, we will escort you across this dilapidated bridge. Before crossing the bridge, let me remind you, this 10,000-meter suspension bridge was not built by the Order of Knights. It was built by the pagans in the Gain Forest decades ago. There is nothing wrong with the suspension bridge itself, but the bottom of the suspension bridge corresponds to a 1,000-meter ravine. If you fall, you will definitely die. Later, I will be the first to walk and reinforce the suspension bridge with my ability. You guys follow me in turn. Luanze, you bring up the rear. Yes, Captain, just from the fact that he was a leader. This Blood Knight had a unique aura of a leader that made people feel at ease. When they stepped onto the suspension bridge, lines of blood immediately spread out from the soles of their feet and reinforced the broken parts of the suspension bridge. As for Luanze, who was walking at the back of the team, he reinforced the suspension bridge with white bones to ensure that the bridge would not break during the walk. The team had just stepped onto the suspension bridge and had not walked more than 20 meters. A long-distance blood contract secret technique. A murderous glint flashed in Lucius' eyes as he turned around abruptly. Whoosh! A blood needle between his index finger and middle finger shot out. Lucius was aiming at the blood stains on the wooden stake at the end of the bridge. Currently, a bloodshot eyeball had grown out of nowhere and was observing Han Dong's group. Whoosh! The blood needle destroyed it. Following the destruction of the eyeball, thick white fog gradually rose from the ravine and shrouded the entire suspension bridge. The visibility was less than 5 meters. Be careful! Something is coming from the fog. Everyone was on high alert. Han Dong, who had just experienced mist, was very familiar with such a fog-shrouded environment. GA. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen magic crows were released, circling around the team for reconnaissance. Undead Luanze, who was at the end of the line, also waved the mysterious short staff in his hand. 3 skulls, used for scouting, and the skulls with blue flames in their eye sockets floated around the team as well, acting as an early warning. Let's go. The team maintained their normal movement speed and walked about 1 kilometer on the suspension bridge. Ha! Suddenly, a burst of wild laughter came from the fog. Lucius, who was in the lead, suddenly raised his hand. His entire arm suddenly transformed into a blood hand that could extend and enlarge without limit, accurately grabbing a target in the fog. Soon, a blood servant, who was wearing a noble's wig and had mosquito wings, was taken out. You emit the delicious scent of the blood god. Count will definitely like it. Such a sentence made Lucius's expression turn ugly, and even a hint of uneasiness flashed in his eyes. The blood hand squeezed. Smack! The mosquito was crushed. Ha! Just as the blood servant died, more wild laughter came from the white fog one after another. Hundreds of strange-looking blood servants were faintly discernible in the fog. Just as everyone's attention was attracted by the blood servants, Han Dong, who was in the middle of the line, felt his heart palpitate. He suddenly opened the small magic eye between his brows and looked into the depths of the ravine. Be careful. There's something down there. What? Several thick earth-yellow tentacles inlaid with rock components suddenly rose from both sides of the suspension bridge. This was the first time Han Dong had seen this type of tentacle, and it seemed very heavy. Without giving them time to react, the tentacle suddenly swung down. Crack! The suspension bridge shattered. In the process of shattering the suspension bridge, it even smashed a few blood servants in the white fog. The suspension bridge collapsed. Due to the influence of gravity, the team of 6 fell down a 1,000-meter-deep ravine. Just as Han Dong was about to fuse with the Dozier Crow and fly with the Crowman form, he suddenly noticed a detail. These tentacles that shattered the suspension bridge did not continue to attack them. They did not even have the slightest hostility. Moreover, smack! Han Dong fell on the surface of the huge tentacle. To be precise, it was the tentacle that took the initiative to catch the falling Han Dong. At the moment of contact, a low and old voice was transmitted to Han Dong's mind through the tentacle. Honorable Lord, the Adraga Mountain Range has been completely occupied by the Scarlet Mountain Villa. At least one of the barons has set his sights on you. If you recklessly go deeper, your lives will be in danger. We were once the natives of the mountain and have no hostility toward the Lord from Gain Forest. We just have some things to discuss with you. Please let your human friends relax. I will take you to the cave at the bottom of the mountain and temporarily avoid the pursuit of the Scarlet Mountain Villa. Okay. Han Dong decisively sent a message to Lucius, who knew that Lucius seemed to have misgivings about the Scarlet Mountain Villa and accepted help from an alien race. With Lucius's words, Renzi and Jane did not resist. The six of them safely landed on the soft earth-brown tentacle and safely reached the bottom of the ravine. The blood servants flying from above seemed to have misgivings about something and all stopped when they were halfway down. As everyone reached the depths of the ravine, the white fog dissipated. The earth-yellow tentacles that destroyed the suspension bridge and took everyone back into the huge array at the bottom of the mountain. A group of natives wearing yellow robes were gathered here. Some of their exposed body parts resembled humans, while others resembled rocks, mud, vines, and skeletons. You aren't the Arabian ghoul, Duilio Stewart? The native's voice was still transmitted to Han Dong's mind. Shoo, the deed has changed. I'm the new lord of the manor. In addition, I'm currently coming here as a knight. Don't let my companions know that I have the deed to the manor, and don't call me lord. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. Understood? Chapter 460. Deep in the valley. A huge magic circle was set up on the ground with gravel engraved with rough markings. Dozens of humanoid beings in yellow robes were standing around the magic circle. They had activated the magic circle together and summoned 4 giant tentacles to break the suspension bridge and lure Han Dong and the others down. The leader, who had communicated with Han Dong in secret, slowly lifted his hood. What was revealed was a black face. However, his eyes were made of stone, and there were some stones embedded in his neck area. According to the classification of low-level beings outside the city, he should be classified as an inhuman. Some pitiful humans who were not protected by the country when the apocalypse arrived would be enslaved by the hybrid demons and become heretics. They lived by sacrificing and serving the hybrid demons. Only a small number of talented heretics were able to become inhumans through the gift of the hybrid demons without losing their willfulness and willpower. However, they could not treat heretics or inhumans as humans. Their hearts had been completely corrupted, and there was no trace of humanity. They only lived for the hybrid demon master they served, and they absolutely rejected humans. As mentioned in the previous paragraph, heretics usually worked in the villages, castles, or special areas ruled by the hybrid demons. Once they sensed the invasion of outsiders, they would immediately choose to sacrifice themselves. They did not take their lives seriously at all. However, the current situation was a little strange. Knights who came from afar, hello. My name is Simon Fergus. The hybrid demon, Lord Soder, I serve, has been killed by the Scarlet Mountain Villa's count. As you can see, the Scarlet Mountain Villa built by the Count has already occupied most of the mountain range, and we can only be forced to live in the valley area that the Count disdains to occupy. I know that you came from afar because of the Scarlet Mountain Villa. We are willing to provide all funding, information about the villa, and maps of the mountain roads. We are also willing to lead the way for you and even provide some basic help. As long as you can kill a noble of the Scarlet Mountain Villa, we will be extremely grateful. At this point, the Black Simon lowered his head slightly. According to the knowledge records of heretics and inhumans in the Holy City, they would only lower their heads to the hybrid demons they served. To a certain extent, it meant that the hybrid demons they served were indeed dead. But all of this seemed a bit out of place. If it were not for Han Dong's special identity, this group of natives would not be so enthusiastic, nor would they cooperate with the knight. After all, they were enemies. Just as Lucius and the others were having doubts, Lucius and the others were having their doubts. GA. The Dozier Crow and Han Dong's body was released. The two-headed raven man had a strong aura. With an arrogant look, he conversed with the black man, Simon, through the raven language. After a while, he turned back to report the information to Han Dong. Captain Lucius, we can trust these cultists. They used to follow Zod and lived in a cave in the middle of Mount Adelaja. It was a neutral force and was not under the protection of the old king. They have connections with the Crowman tribe in the Gaines Forest. My Crowman friend has connections with them and can accept their help. Crowman? Lucius immediately connected two things. Mr. Black and White's raven attribute was unique. In the Holy City, it had long been rumored that Mr. Black and White could control the neutral Crowman in the Gaines Forest. At present, Han Dong was Mr. Black and White's only student. It was normal for him to have a Crowman as his personal bodyguard. The second thing was the old king's incident that Lucius and the others had personally experienced. It was because of the help of the Crowman tribe that they were able to safely escape to the Holy City. Why would the Crowmen in the Gaines Forest risk fighting against the old king to help the knights? Perhaps the answer lay with Han Dong, who was in the same incident. Therefore, Lucius did not have much doubt about Han Dong releasing the Crowmen and communicating with them. Lucius revealed the fangs at the corner of his mouth and whispered, "Crazy heretics, to be willing to suppress their depraved emotions and cooperate with us. It seems that Scarlet Mountain Villa has gone too far. It doesn't seem good to talk in the valley. Let's talk in the cave where you temporarily live." The black man, Simon, made a very polite gesture. "This way, please. We will do our best to receive you as humans." Since Lucius had made the decision, the team members did not object. Needless to say, Demps had long seen through the fact that these heretics were so enthusiastic because of Han Dong's lord status. After all, they were a group of desperados who had lost their master. They even hoped to be protected by their lord, Han Dong. Abel had worked with Han Dong too many times and completely trusted his decision. Blood team, will there be a problem? Jean and Lunds had certain doubts. Having received formal knight education, it was difficult for them to accept establishing a cooperative relationship with a group of beings from outside the city. "I know what I'm doing. At least, I can't smell blood brew from their blood. At least, I can be sure that they're not from Scarlet Mountain Villa. If there's any conspiracy or attempt, we could just kill their hybrid demon master. Besides, the formation that lured us down should be their strongest means. Since they didn't do anything, there shouldn't be a problem." Okay, as long as it was a decision made by Lucius, Jean and Lunds would not have any other opinions. However, when they stared at the crowman standing on Han Dong's shoulder and transformed into a well-behaved crow, they could not help but be a little shocked. After all, even a knowledgeable undead Lunds had never heard of anyone being protected by the filth outside the city, let alone a trainee knight. After a while, everyone entered the temporary habitat of the heretics after they were chased down the mountain. It was a relatively large cave. The interior was divided into 3 levels, and the cave was dug into the rock wall as a resting room. There were some simple stone tables and stone stools in the hall area. There were about 50 heretics living here, and Simon was the leader of this group of refugees. Senior Jean also used the shadows in the cave to conduct a comprehensive search to confirm that there were no hidden compartments or hybrid demons hiding in the dark. This way, most of the concerns were eliminated. Immediately after, a series of strange meat dishes that were simply roasted were served on the table to entertain the knights who came from afar. At the same time, Simon also took out the information about Scarlet Mountain Villa and the map of the secret mountain path of Mount Aragad. He habitually handed it to the Lord. However, Han Dong immediately gave him a look and handed it to Lucius. Chapter 461. Please give us some time to consider. No problem. Simon personally led the 6 of them to a sealed room with a simple stone door. The information provided by the Aborigines was spread out on the stone table. One of the maps that depicted the entire Adraja Mountain immediately attracted everyone's attention. Although the map was old and had traces of many changes and reconstructions, but it clearly recorded every mountain path in the Adraja Mountain and even some unknown shortcuts and cave passages. In addition, on the map, the areas covered by Scarlet Mountain Villa were also circled with different depths of red paint. The value of this map was extremely high. If Lucius brought it back to the city, not only would they be able to report back, but they would also be able to receive an excellent evaluation and commendation. Apart from the map, there was another piece of information. There was also a stack of information about Scarlet Mountain Villa on the stone table. The information about Baron and Count mentioned in the information made Han Dong very interested. Baron, favored by the blood god, was given pure blood wine and evolved into a newborn body, hybrid demon. He is the manager of the Scarlet Mountain Villa. Count, Lord, the founder of the Scarlet Mountain Villa. It was he who led the villa to the Adraja Mountain range and won over, ruled, and exterminated the other evil creatures in the area. It is rumored that he is a mature hybrid demon. Han Dong had read about the classification of hybrid demons in the basic knowledge books in the library as the main threat to humans. The strength of hybrid demons was not on the same line. There were also high and low levels between them. Just like the difference between official knights, due to the difference in the number of fate points invested in the talent tree, there was also a clear difference in strength. Hybrid demons were directly derived from the king. They could also be ordinary life forms through their own talent and hard work, and through postnatal advancement. This kind of evolution was extremely difficult. Even many evil creatures, monsters, or mutants that had reached their own limits died because of a small mistake in the process of advancement. Life forms outside the city were different from humans in the Holy City. They could be given points through the space of destiny and grow steadily. They grew by obtaining chaotic, crazy, impure, violent, and other uncontrollable extreme energy. The slightest carelessness would lead to the loss of form and will, turning into an unconscious, indescribable thing. A very small number of individuals, after stabilizing their form and consciousness, would eventually form a hybrid demon core in their body, officially stepping into the ranks of the hybrid demons, and their essence would completely change. The first type of fiend was the newborn body. Once hybrid demons were formed, they had to accept a completely new way of growth, faith. He needed to develop his own power, and he needed to obtain the power of faith from the absolute worship of his servants. This was also the fundamental reason why, when Evernight descended and the hybrid demons ran amok, they would choose to cultivate the humans who were in dire straits as heretics instead of directly killing them. Once enough faith power is gathered, the hybrid demons will enter the next stage, the maturation stage. It seemed simple, but the collection process was extremely complicated and long. At this stage, the hybrid demons would undergo a fundamental change, and their abilities would be almost perfect. The book's evaluation was extremely deadly. Blood Knight Lucius's expression turned serious. Scarlet Manor's Count, a mature hybrid demon? No wonder he has so many newborn hybrid demons under him and can almost occupy the entire Aragad mountain range in just half a year. He brought the medium title deed all the way here. I'm afraid he has some ulterior motives for the Holy City. Since the master of the Scarlet Manor was a mature hybrid demon, it could explain the problem of the Knight Squad that went missing a few weeks ago. When facing a blood descendant of this level, if they did not prepare in advance or were directly attacked by the other party, it was possible that no information could be sent back. After the squad finished reviewing all the information, Simon also followed them into the stone room. The ostensible purpose of this trip was Abel's seed-breaking plan. Mr. Simon, according to our information, there should be a beast-type newborn hybrid demon active in the Aragad mountain range. Do you know its area of activity? When Simon received the information, he immediately showed a surprised expression, and his cracked stone eyeballs spun wildly. This is Count's pet. It's quite a terrifying monster. When they attacked our cave, this monster was also among them. Count's pet? If this was the case, things would become troublesome. If they wanted to deal with this hybrid demon, they would inevitably have to get involved with Scarlet Manor. As far as the current situation was concerned, the wisest choice was to give up on the seed-breaking plan and find a chance to return to the Holy City. Respected Knight, are you going to kill this demonic beast? The Rock-Earth clan is willing to provide assistance. This demonic beast was released by Count outside the manor area and wantonly ate other lives on the mountain. We know its main habitat, and I'm willing to lead the way for you. Just when Han Dong thought that Lucius would definitely refuse and think of a way to leave the mountain area, Lucius's answer surprised everyone. Okay, we'll set off in 10 minutes. Okay. Simon was overjoyed. Killing this demonic beast could be considered as avenging his master. Jin and Luns quickly pulled Lucius aside and talked privately. Blood Team, our mission is just to send them to the foot of the mountain. Why do we have to intervene in such a troublesome matter? Jin did not understand Lucius's decision. This time, they had already obtained a lot of information outside the city, and it was enough to report back to the city. Secondly, there was once a group of knights that disappeared in an instant here. Moreover, the information mentioned that there was a suspected mature hybrid demon in the villa. In conclusion, there was no need to take such a huge risk and get involved with the Scarlet Mountain Villa. Lucius's answer was very firm. I seem to understand the true meaning of the investigation. Mr. Black and White's arrangement and Commander Shea's appointment of us to investigate the Adelaga Mountain Range are not coincidences. Jen, can Luns accompany me deep into the Scarlet Mountain Villa? It just so happens that we have obtained a detailed map of the mountain path and the distribution of the villa from the refugees. This group of juniors is pretty good. If Commander Keeman's grandson can successfully break the seed-breaking plan, he can also become a powerful force. Can you accompany me to the manor? Lucius himself was related to blood. The Knight Order he belonged to, Commander Shea Cromwell, had personally asked him to investigate the Adelaga mountain range. Based on the analysis of the current situation, Lucius understood the commander's arrangement. She had deliberately let him interact with the Scarlet Mountain Villa. As the captain, Blood Knight, Lucius rarely made such a selfish request. Most of the time, he was considering the interests of the two of them or the team. Therefore, Jin and Lun smiled and nodded. Anyway, we have been training in the Knight Order for more than half a year. This time, we have brought enough equipment and supplies out of the city. Just treat it as a kind of high-intensity combat training. Chapter 462. Han Dong silently observed Lucius's decision. In fact, from the beginning, Han Dong was suspicious. How could it be so coincidental? It just so happened that Lucius was leading Han Dong's group to the mountains where the Scarlet Mountain Villa was located. Lucius was also of the blood attribute. Sure enough, everything was arranged by the Holy City. Mr. Black and White had probably communicated with the leader of the Scarlet Knights in private a long time ago. This trip to the Aragad Mountains was not only a test for able to break the seed, but also a special test for Lucius. The man who was selected as the second in line to join the Scarlet Knights was also of great significance to the Holy City. Is it a kind of risky investment? Han Dong said, Captain Lucius, I asked the crowmen to discuss some details with them. Let's get ready to go in 10 minutes. Okay. Han Dong found an excuse to leave the stone room. Simon, come here for a moment. When he heard Han Dong's call, the person in charge of the refugees immediately put on an obedient look. He stepped on the moving yellow soil and quickly followed Han Dong. Sir Lord, what are your orders? How many Inhumans and ordinary believers are there in your tribe? Including me, there are a total of 5 Inhumans and 43 ordinary believers. Most of them have died in the process of escaping or were bewitched by the blood wine to become a member of the villa. How much do you know about experiments? Do you know the basic operations in alchemy? I don't know much. This group of Rocky clan living in the mountains, except for some sacrificial and serving methods of the hybrid demons, only knew some techniques of moving earth and building stones. It seems that we can only start from doing odd jobs. Han Dong was a little disappointed. Simon was very smart. He seemed to understand the meaning in Han Dong's words and quickly said, "As long as it's the Sir's request, we are willing to try to learn. Our people can even do the most basic physical work." Well, it just so happens that the underground laboratory area of the manor is lacking people. Han Dong's lacking people here had two meanings. The first meaning was to do odd jobs. Currently, the large experimental area corresponding to the underground tomb had been built. Most of the things were handled by Professor Swollen alone, and the head nurse assisted him from the side. A certain number of workers had to be put in charge of supervising the various production processes if the experimental factory for the anti-pressure drug was set up. The second level, which meant that there was a shortage of people, meant that they were experimental subjects. This group of followers who were willing to sacrifice themselves for their master should be willing to do anything. After receiving Han Dong's reply that he was willing to recruit people, Simon was extremely excited. "Thank you so much." Simon was so emotional that he almost burst into tears. Grains of yellow soil overflowed from his eyes. The hybrid demons they served had died, and their homeland had fallen. It would be difficult for these refugees to survive alone in such a situation. Even if they were to go to Gain Forest, they would be attacked by some aggressive tribes and become food or slaves. Han Dong nodded. If this matter could be resolved smoothly, I will take you to the manor." "Good. I just hope that Sir Feudal Lord won't contact Count for the time being." Count, who was directly blessed by the blood god, has a high concentration of high-quality blood wine flowing in its body. As a direct descendant, Count is a great threat to you, Sir Feudal Lord. "I know what to do. Allow me to say one more thing. Sir Feudal Lord's group of knight companions, although the knight named Lucius is very powerful, but it seems that the blood flowing in his body is different from the others. He may attract special attention from the Scarlet Manor, so you must be careful. After killing Count's pet, I will arrange the shortest route for everyone to escape from the mountain area. Although Count is crazy, he is still quite principled. As long as we can reach Gain Forest, he will definitely not chase after us." It's almost time to get ready to go. While Simon led Han Dong and the others through the Rock-Earth clan's unique method of moving rocks and controlling Earth, Simon and the others were moving stealthily through the mountain. Scarlet Manor, main house, in a room full of black needles, roses, chains, and strange specimens, Count was carrying out a true physical combat. Count seemed to like watching the pure physical combat between humans. He would always choose the pagans to participate in this kind of paid combat competition. Sitting on the soft leather sofa with his legs crossed and holding a cup of fresh blood wine, he was enjoying the pure physical confrontation between the two of them. The two people in the field were pagans who were infected by the Scarlet Curse, non-insect transformation, and had reached the third stage. They were carrying out a physical combat without any weapons. In the third stage, the strengthening effect would bestow them with even more fleshly energy. One of them was a bald man with a strong physique. Two crimson arms covered with blood vessels grew out of his back. His four arms cooperated and attacked quickly with boxing skills. The other was a young man with a short stature. He chose to hide the power given by the Scarlet Curse in his body and did not grow any limbs. Instead, he used a method of blood circulation to improve the overall quality of his body. The young man's body was covered with blood vessels. In the fight, the young man who was fast and agile had the upper hand. Through a primitive biting and clawing attack, he kept stripping the bald man of his flesh when the young man was about to win. Asterisk slap. Asterisk, the strong, crimson arms grew out of the bald man's back and grabbed the young man's head and slammed it on the ground. The battle was over. "Take it out. This is the reward you deserve." The Count handed over the rest of his wine glass to him. The bald man stared at the remaining blood wine in the glass and was so excited that he kept kowtowing. With his blood wine, he could become stronger. Asterisk, knock, 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 asterisk, the door was knocked. An old butler, who was as thin as a bamboo pole but was 6 meters tall and dressed neatly, entered the room. Since he was taller than the floor, he had to bend his body all the way. coupled with his slender body, it gave people a very strange feeling. Count. According to the servant's report, an interesting group of knights came to the foot of the mountain. Oh, is it more interesting than the last group? That's right. One of the knights seems to have a little bit of master's aura. There was a flash of interest in the Earl's eyes. Did you catch them? Before the nearby barons rushed over, this group of knights had fallen into the valley and temporarily lost track of them. It seems to be related to the refugees living at the foot of the mountain. Put out a reward. Whoever catches the blood of this group of knights will get a bottle of pure blood wine. As soon as he said this, even the old butler's eyes flashed with greed. Yes, I'll immediately give the reward to the barons in charge of different areas. Well, if there's any special situation, let me know. A human knight with master's aura is worthy of my personal action. Count's red tongue came out of his mouth and slowly licked his lips. Chapter 463. Abel didn't talk much along the way. It doesn't seem like a change in personality after a few months of hellish training. He seems to be suppressing something. While walking up the mountain passage, Han Dong noticed Abel's depressed state. He quietly opened his mystic eye and tried to observe Abel's body condition. Buzz! Han Dong's back was drenched in cold sweat from the shock of that moment. Although it was only for a moment, he saw an indescribable shadow of a berserk beast in his body. It was similar to the situation when he fought against Deng Zong in Ghost Stories. However, Abel was in a desperate situation at that time. His consciousness was hidden, so the berserk beast hidden in his body took over the main consciousness and fell into a berserk state. Now, Abel, who seemed to be depressed and silent, showed a state of forced self-control. This was a huge change brought by Abel's hellish training for almost a year. If Abel can really control this power, he will definitely be able to defeat the hybrid demons alone and successfully break the seed, becoming the first person in the new era of the Holy City. After understanding Abel's current state, Han Dong was relieved. Thinking of this, Han Dong reached out and patted Demps, who was walking in front of him. He quietly sent a message, and Demps immediately made an okay gesture. The exit of the secret passage is in front of us. It corresponds to the southern foothills of the Adraga mountain range. It is also the area where the Scarlet Mountain Villa's forces are least distributed. As for the big pet that you are looking for, it will occasionally wander around this area. After all, Count completely raised it. Whether you can meet it or not depends on your luck. As Simon reached out his hand, the surface of the stone wall, the huge stone door that was used to seal the secret passage, slowly opened. Finally, it returned to its original height from the bottom of the valley. Even the plants have changed. The group of people who walked out of the secret passage were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. It was completely different from the eternal night plants in Gain Forest that had sucker structures. Most of the plants that grew in the mountains were bright red in color. A kind of bewitching red light was reflected from their bodies. The surface of their skin was translucent, and the red liquid flowing inside could be clearly seen. Red and plump fruits grew on the tree branches one after another. The ground was also covered in crimson flowers. The plump petals felt like they would explode at the slightest touch. The mountain forest was also filled with a fragrant fishy smell. Such a crimson scene would cause any non-fresh blood life form to feel extremely uncomfortable. Once one ate the bright red fruits in the mountains, or was cut by the thorns on the flowers, or drank the spring water in the mountains, there is a possibility that one would be infected. Everyone, use your concealment abilities. The flow of blood in the mountains is not normal. It is possible that Scarlet Mountain Villa has already begun to search for us. Lucius had just finished speaking. Jean gently tapped her toes on Lucius's shadow, and her figure quickly merged into it, becoming one. It had to be said that Senior Sister Jeanne's shadow was very suitable for team operations. Through this method, she could attach herself to her teammates' shadows and launch unexpected attacks during battle. Luanze took out a rag with black scriptures drawn on it and covered his body, concealing his aura. While everyone focused on concealing themselves, Dimps had a different idea. He plucked a bright red fruit. Through the guidance of the finger technique, he perfectly extracted the faint aura of the blood brew from the fruit and evenly distributed it on his body. It felt like he was an infected person. Such a disguise was very clever. Since Abel needed to stabilize and control the berserk beast in his body, Dimps also disguised him as an infected person, as expected of the most outstanding junior in the library. Dimps, help your senior disguise as well. Necromancer Lindsay, who was wrapped in a rag, let out a strange laugh. Okay, senior. During the disguise, Luanze stretched out a withered hand from under the rag and gently clasped Dimps' wrist. What delicate skin. No wonder the deputy curator admires you so much. Senior, if there is anything, let's talk about it when we return to the city. Of course, the mountains are too dangerous. Don't worry, if there is any danger, your senior will protect you. Luanze's words were obviously directed at Dimps. At this moment, Captain Lucius suddenly turned around and glared at Luanze. Luanze, this junior Dimps' ideas and methods are very good. This is a special time. You better restrain yourself. Yes, after being glared at by Lucius, Luanze immediately cowered. Naturally, there was a reason why he disliked Dimps. The special treatment Dimps received in the academy was too obvious. Everyone in the library knew that he had an affair with the deputy curator. Some ordinary students did not think much of it. Dimps' talent was worthy of the special treatment. However, a top student like Luanze, who was similarly talented but was treated 1,000 miles away from his junior, was a little displeased. Once, when Luanze was in his 4th year, he spent enough credits to borrow a high-class book in the library. He had to queue for an entire hour. Later, Dimps did not need to queue or spend any credits. He could directly borrow a high-class book of the same value. At that time, Dimps was just a junior in his 2nd year. Luanze hated students who used private relationships to get in through the back door. Just like that, the entire team disguised themselves as infected people. The black man, Simon, turned into yellow sand and secretly led the way. Wait, it seems like something is approaching. After walking for about 100 meters in the foothills, Han Dong and Lucius both sensed something approaching at the same time. Simon immediately transmitted his voice to everyone through contact with the soil. That's strange. Very few people from Scarlet Mountain Villa move around in this area, let alone a small team operation. I'm afraid that the moment you were discovered on the suspension bridge, Count ordered a search for you. At the beginning, Simon had also warned Han Dong that the uniqueness of Blood Knight Lucius might attract special attention from the villa. As for what exactly is going on, we'll know once we capture them and ask. Lucius' expression was cold. Han Dong immediately added, "There's only one Scarlet team within 500 meters. We can make a move." The team that slowly walked out from the forest was the Bloodkin team, near the villa that had received the bounty to capture the young knight mixed with the blood god's aura alive. They did not belong to the insect variant. There were a total of 3 people in the team, and all of them were pale. They had messy white hair that reached their waists, wrinkled and withered pale skin, completely cracked blood-red mouths, and eye sockets that were full of blood clots instead of eyeballs. They judged and moved only through their sense of smell. Clang, clang, clang. Their hands and feet were shackled, and it seemed that they were still handcuffed in a manner on normal days. They were a special kind of bloodkin. Along the way, they ate the bright red fruits on the tree and were extremely hungry. Chapter 464. What a violent feeling. It's completely different from the blood descendants we've encountered before. Captain Lucius should know better than me. Let's see how he deals with it. This kind of thing that relies on blood wine and walks in the abyss of madness has an indescribable vitality. If we don't deal with it properly, it will escape. Due to the previous conflict, Han Dong tried not to give any leading opinions in the team. He just played his role as a scout. After a while, a pale figure slowly appeared in the forest. Lucius's expression didn't change much for this kind of blood descendant he had never seen before. Based on his observation and blood perception, he gave a simple evaluation. Fallen blood descendants have no visual ability and rely on their sense of smell to hunt. Due to their excessive desire for blood wine, they suffer from severe thirst. They even don't hesitate to absorb all the hemoglobin in their body, so their overall appearance is pale. They have a crazy dependence on blood wine and have long lost their rationality. They should only be under the direct control of the Baron or Duke. This control is also based on the supply of blood wine. Even if we pretend to be infected, they will attack indiscriminately. Captain, should we kill them by force? Luan Zhe was ready to use the secret technique of necromancy. A few white bone fragments surrounded them. Lucius slightly parted the black hair hanging down in front of his face and reached out to block Luan Zhe behind him. The vitality of this kind of fallen blood descendant is extraordinary. It's difficult to kill them quickly with conventional means. If we don't kill them immediately and let them escape quickly with the help of the blood forest, our information will be leaked. Just watch, I'll deal with it. The word deal with was especially clear. Hearing such a reply, Jean and Lindsay were very clear that the captain could easily deal with the current situation alone. There was no need to worry at all. Only Han Dong was somewhat puzzled. Captain Lucius seems to be quite familiar with these blood descendants. Does he know this kind of life form himself? Or did he learn it from the Scarlet Knights? If we assume that Lucius has a connection with the blood descendants, I need some backup plans. 15 meters away. It seemed to have reached the range of the pale blood descendants' perception. The pale blood descendants, who were walking slowly with their heads lowered, suddenly raised their heads. Even if their blood-coagulated eyes didn't have the ability to see, they stared straight ahead 15 meters. Their noses twitched crazily, absorbing the scent in this direction. Even a little bit of blood wine smell could make them go crazy. Ah, crack! Strange cries came from deep within their throats. Due to their endless thirst for the blood brew, the pale blood descendants' bodies grew secondary sucking organs due to their thirst for blood. They were mouths. His entire body was covered with such strange mouths. Inside their mouths, there was a straw tongue that was used to quickly suck the blood wine. Once it came into contact, it would instantly bite and suck the prey dry. Ah, it pounced over like a mad dog. One of them directly ran towards them from the front of the forest. The other two quickly leaped through the branches on the left and right, closing in on Lucius from different angles. Because of Lucius's instructions, the others had already left, leaving him alone to face this situation. Foundation, Crusader, Talent Tree. Bloodshed as a Crusader, apart from his blood talent, Lucius specialized in swordsmanship. To a certain extent, it was because of Lucius's close combat ability that the Scarlet Knights paid a high price to pick him as the second in line. The strange thing was, there was no sword-type weapon on Lucius's waist or back. It seemed that he had used some special method to hide his unique sword. It was just like how Han Dong had used the restrain method to hide the staff in his body. Ah, the terrifying hissing sound approached. Just as the blood descendants were about to attack from different directions, Lucius's gaze was unusually cold. A rotating blood array appeared in his palm. This is... Han Dong clearly observed the current blood unsheathing method through the small magic eye. Strands of blood flowed out from the palm of his hand. When the blood strands passed through the array, they immediately weaved in a precise manner, constructing a blood sword that belonged to Lucius in the fastest way. Strange. It's obviously blood strands. So why is the sword made of metal? Could it be that Lucius is already able to control the weapon of fate and make the weapon undergo a fundamental change by disassembling it into blood strands and keeping it in his body? In Lucius's hand was an exquisite sword made of dark metal. In addition to the dark luster flowing on the surface, there were also blood strands embedded in the body of the sword. It seemed to be able to directly absorb the blood energy from Lucius's body to increase the attack power of the weapon. Or rather, there were some special effects that Han Dong could not imagine. Lucius's thumb pressed on a spike on the hilt. The sword was like a living creature, rapidly sucking his blood, so much so that the sword emitted bursts of dark red luster. Lucius took a big step back with his right foot and slightly lowered his center of gravity. Facing the three blood descendants coming from different directions, he just took a deep breath and treated it as an ordinary training. Blood moon / blood flashed. In the blink of an eye, Lucius completed a 270-degree high-speed slash. The blood mist sprayed out from the sword formed a blood moon in the air that surrounded Lucius's body. Such a fast and fierce slash appeared very beautiful in Lucius's hands. There were no unnecessary movements. Such exquisite and beautiful swordsmanship was not something he was born with, but rather it was something that he trained hard for. As for the three blood descendants, they were hit by the blood moon slash. The blood flowing in their bodies was completely absorbed by the blade, leaving not a single drop behind. The broken bodies that fell to the ground naturally could not be resurrected. So strong. Even Han Dong's demonic, I couldn't see clearly what had happened just now. Demps was also stunned. He pushed up his glasses. It seemed that Lucius's strength had exceeded his initial expectations. The blood sword returned to Lucius's body. He waved to his team members and explained simply, the best way to kill the blood descendants is to find a way to remove all the blood in their bodies. Blood Captain, you've become stronger again? Luns, who had passed the test, was also shocked. If I hadn't broken through some time ago, perhaps Captain Schick wouldn't have asked me to investigate this area. Luns, you should have become much stronger, right? Your necromancy spells are the nemesis of these blood descendants. Once we encounter a dangerous situation, we have to rely on you to carry out a large-scale cleanup. Yes, no problem. Let's continue on our way. Chapter 465. This kind of pale blood descendant that had completely lost its consciousness had no rationality, so it was impossible to get any information out of it. 30 minutes. 1 hour. 2 hours. 4 hours. Under the lead of the local resident, Simon, they went to various areas in the mountains where Count's pets might appear. They carefully searched and waited, but they did not find anything. During this time, they also encountered various blood descendant squads. There were many different types of blood descendants, and there were many special species that were similar to the pale blood descendants. They even encountered a type of pure blood that was similar to a sludge monster. They used the eyeballs collected from corpses to observe. Even if there was only a drop of blood left, it could still survive. During the battle, it almost escaped. It was all thanks to Han Dong secretly controlling the yellow sand and disintegrating the drop of blood that escaped into the ground. During this time, Jean controlled the shadows and cooperated with Demp's array to restrain a group of blood descendants that were still conscious. Then, Luanze used the method of corpses to carry out extremely terrifying interrogations. As long as it was a creature that was still conscious, Luanze could definitely pry open its mouth. In the end, they obtained 3 important pieces of information. First, the Count had personally issued the arrest warrant. The reward was a whole bottle of pure and complete high-end blood wine. All the forces in Scarlet Mountain Villa were tempted. Even the barons began to secretly activate various investigative methods. This was also why there were many squads patrolling the foothills, which were usually not involved in the manor. Obviously, the reason why Count gave out such a generous reward and asked to capture the night squad alive in the mountains was because of Lucius's uniqueness. Second, there was the problem of different blood descendants. Count had a total of 6 barons that had reached the level of newborn hybrid demon. They each controlled a relatively independent submanor, and their styles were completely different. For example, the pale blood descendant that Lucius first dealt with came from the Baron White Ghost, who was located in the White Manor in the south-central region. It was rumored that he was a pure lunatic who suffered from vitiligo, sepsis, and severe thirst. However, due to his firm will, his consciousness was always on the verge of madness. Due to the different styles of each baron, the blood descendants under them also had their own characteristics. Therefore, the Count gave them different submanners so that they could develop their own bloodline disciples. But on the whole, they were all under the Count's control, and there were also secret connections. Thirdly, it was information that he had obtained with great difficulty from a bloodline descendant from the main manor. Abel's target was the hybrid demon. Due to special reasons, the Count had temporarily recalled it back to the main manor. It seemed that it was time for it to eat, and it was unknown when it would be released. In a secret cave in the belly of the mountain, the hole was blocked by a rock made by Simon. Along the way, they had killed more than 40 blood descendants, half of which were killed by Lucius. With a raise of the hand, the blade fell, blood was shed, and death was instantaneous. Even Simon, a mutant who only recognized the Lord at the beginning, had developed a sense of awe towards Knight Lucius, who was the leader. Abel said, "At present, we are all wanted, and my target may stay in the main manor for a long time. The risk is too high, and it is not worth it for everyone to take the risk for me. I still have a year of my senior year, so let's go back to the city first. Thank you, senior, for taking care of me along the way. When the situation here calms down, I will ask grandfather's knights to accompany me here to hunt the target." According to the information collected so far, Abel made the decision to give up. Indeed, under the situation where the Count personally issued a bounty, if they continued to go deeper, they might have to face multiple hybrid demons at the same time. No matter how strong the Blood Knights were, the team would still fall. At this moment, Lucius made a special decision. My investigation mission is not really over yet. I need to bring a bottle of Baron's blood back to the Holy City. When Commander Shea instructed me to leave the city, she said something. It seemed like a normal greeting, but in fact, it was a special request for me. The team member wanted to refute, but this was the captain's request. At this moment, Han Dong unexpectedly agreed and said, "Since it is Senior Lucius's request, let's do it directly." In fact, if we think about it from another perspective, it might not be a bad thing that the Count issued a high-value bounty for us. Since the reward is only a bottle of precious blood wine, there will naturally be hidden competition between the 6 barons. As long as one of the barons discovers our tracks, they will never leak the information to the other barons. Their greed for the blood wine will make them camp alone and try to capture us alive by relying on their own abilities. We only need to go deep into a baron's manor and get the blood that the captain wants. With Captain Lucius's super strong combat power, Senior Zhen's unsolvable assassination, and Senior Lun's restraining necromancy, it is more than enough to kill a newborn hybrid demon. As for the small fries in the baron's manor, the 3 of us will be responsible for cleaning them up. Maybe we can even get important information from the baron and help Senior Zhen establish her position in the Knight Regiment. Han Dong's words were not wrong at all. By being a bootlicker, they might be able to write off their past grievances. Lucius looked at Han Dong with an unusual gaze. To be able to make such a quick deduction under such circumstances, Han Dong's leadership was obvious. It was just that Han Dong had been more restrained along the way and did not speak. Lucius nodded slightly. Nicholas is right. Information won't be exchanged. Under the temptation of the blood wine, the Baron will try to monopolize us. Let's do it this way. Once we obtain the blood that belongs to the Baron, we will immediately return to the city. Do you have any other suggestions? Okay. Zhen and Lunz nodded in succession. As long as they did not touch Count, the matter was within the team's control. At this moment, Inhuman Simon added, "If you can kill a Baron, I will summon all my clansmen to dig out a passage from the Baron's manor to the outside of the Aragad mountain range as quickly as possible. We will definitely send you out of here safely." Just like that, the seemingly perfect plan was decided. The chosen destination was the White Manor that was relatively close. In a manor dominated by thirst for blood and madness. Even if the team members revealed their identities in the manor, the Baron, who suffered from severe thirst, would definitely secretly keep it a secret and would definitely monopolize the blood wine reward. All the red blood cells were sucked dry. With Simon leading the way, they gradually approached the White Manor located in the mountains along the mountain path. The plants in this area were covered in white spots, and the few large trees near the manor were completely white. White leaves were scattered all over the ground, and the scenery looked good. However, under the white trees surrounding the manor, there were several pale ones chained up with iron chains as the manor's watchdogs. Chapter 466. Just in time to feed these watchdogs, Han Dong and the others stopped 20 meters away. They saw an extremely fat butler walk out from inside. His huge fat belly was almost touching the ground, and the fat between his thighs accumulated to 8 layers of tire rings. Every step he took would leave a footprint on the ground. The butler, who was supposed to feed these watchdogs, did not carry any food in his hands. The way the food was being fed was rather uncomfortable. Even Lucius and the others averted their gazes. Only Han Dong watched with relish. The fat butler sprayed the food stored in his body in front of the group of pale people in a vomiting manner. There was also a little blood brew, aura mixed in the rotten meat. The group of pale people immediately opened their mouths all over and ate frantically. Han Dong muttered, "We seem to have chosen a very extreme manner. The security guards and the butler are so sick. It's hard to imagine what kind of existence the Baron White Ghoul is." Lucius gave the plan to invade the manor. Luns resurrect 20 ordinary skeleton soldiers and attack the manor from the front. After attracting the manor's attention, we quickly sneak in from the back door. Yes, just as Luns was about to cast a spell, Han Dong suddenly said, "Captain Lucius, this is risky. It's not that I don't believe in the skeleton soldiers summoned by Senior Luns, but it's a targeted problem. At present, the manor is targeting us. If it's just a group of skeleton soldiers causing trouble at the front door, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to attract their full attention. How about this? The 3 of us will help Senior Sister and Senior Brother attract their attention. You guys find a good opportunity to sneak in and go straight for the White Ghoul Baron." Indeed, Han Dong was right. The lure of a few skeleton soldiers was likely to fail. You guys are still apprentice knights. What you have to face is a kind of evil that has been strengthened by blood brew. Can you do it? Don't worry. We generally don't do things that we aren't confident in. Moreover, we believe that with the strength and perfect cooperation of Senior Brother and Senior Sister, we will definitely be able to kill the Baron hiding inside in a short period of time. Once the Baron dies, the blood descendants who are dealing with us outside will be in a mess. Okay, I'll leave it to you guys. After Lucius confirmed the feasibility of the plan, he immediately led the team to the backdoor area. "Brothers, it's time to work. Abel, you seem to have been suppressing your bestial nature for a long time. Why don't you take the lead? It's a good opportunity for you to vent your anger." All right, the bestial nature in Abel's body surged, and his body size reached 5 times its normal size. Green veins protruded from the surface of his bulging muscles. The reason Han Dong had chosen to use them as bait was to let Abel vent. Because of Captain Abel's strength, Abel had been tiptoeing throughout the entire operation, and long-term suppression of his bestial nature was not a good thing. Abel ran to the door. Han Dong signaled to Demps that there was no need for him to go forward. He only needed to stay where he was and observe. If anything unexpected happens, we'll go. Abel alone is enough to take care of these watchdogs. Demps pushed up his glasses as if he was thinking about something else. "Nicholas, on the surface, you support Senior Lucius to obtain the Baron's blood, but in fact, you should have some other ideas, right? There are some things that could not be hidden from Demps, and Han Dong did not need to play dumb. I'm just interested in Scarlet Mountain Villa. I'm not demanding anything. If we can take care of this Baron, we'll definitely be able to understand some deeper information. After all, we're also looking for the target of the broken seed, aren't we?" "Ha, I knew it. You're playing a little too big." Demps secretly smiled. "Ha." Han Dong also smiled politely. "Demps, I think you must have a backup plan. If the situation goes out of control, we'll split up and escape." Haha, the synchronization rate. 5%. Abel, who had undergone an entire year of training, could only control 5% of the berserk beasts in his bloodline. If he used too much, he would lose initiative and enter a berserk state. A manic white shadow quickly covered Abel's whole body. Not only did his whole body's mobility increase, but the berserk beast shadow could also transform into fangs and claws according to Abel's will, increasing the attack range, changing the attack method at any time, and increasing the lethality. For a time, the pale ones that were tied up had broken arms and limbs splattered everywhere. Before they could get close to Abel, they were torn apart by the sharp claws. They were not on the same level at all. Such a massacre immediately attracted the manor's attention. Creak! The manor's gate opened. The fat butler who had fed the food previously walked out with heavy steps. Clang! Clang! There were more than 20 iron chains in the butler's hands. They were connected to the special pets raised by the Baron. They were different from ordinary pale ones. These specially raised pets were larger and stronger, and they seemed to have been transformed by the indigenous life forms in the mountains. Their skin was inlaid with special armor, and only a terrifying big mouth full of tongues was exposed outside the armor. Ha ha! Following a burst of laughter, several women with wings on their backs came from the manor's building. They were all the Baron's personal maids, and because they smelled the high-quality blood in Abel's body, they laughed wantonly in the air. Go eat more. The butler loosened the iron chain in his hand. All the pets, as well as the vampire-like maidservants in the sky, attacked Abel at the same time. All kinds of strange, dark red, straw-like tentacles emerged from the blood descendants' bodies. They could pollute Abel's mind to a certain extent and affect his movements. Dimps, let's go. Han Dong, who was hiding in the dark, snapped his fingers. One of the hosts living in the prison was released. A series of pink and thick octopus tentacles suddenly shot out from the forest and instantly wrapped around the white maids flying in the air. The maids were not allowed to struggle at all. The acid secreted between the suckers quickly disintegrated their skin and bone layers, and the huge power of the tentacles directly crushed these maids. Nicole, the blood in these things can't be absorbed. Yes, I know. You finally let me out. I was bored to death. Along the way, Nicole and his body had been urging Han Dong to come out and play. However, because of the existence of Captain Lucius, Nicole's identity was difficult to explain. If Nicole was not released now, Han Dong's intimacy with this little girl might decrease. Togu and Chun Li didn't have much of a relationship. The prison was like their home, and it didn't matter how long they stayed. Dimps, I'll leave the fat butler to you. Okay, after saying that, Han Dong's gaze locked onto the armored pets, and he gently turned the high priest's arm. Yellow Sand's secret technique. The originally firm soil immediately turned into yellow sand, restricting the movements of more than 20 special pets, and Abel killed them one by one. The fat butler noticed that the situation was not right and wanted to return to the manor. A drop of seawater fell on his round head. When he looked up, the spear had arrived. A long spear from the deep sea pierced through the top of the fat butler's head and completely penetrated his body. The fat butler's vitality was directly proportional to his fat body, and no physical attack could kill him. However, Dempsey's attack was obviously different. In less than half a second, the butler had turned into a pool of seawater on the ground, and the mysterious long spear was withdrawn into the deep sea. Another emissary? No, not a messenger. It feels very dangerous. Nicole seemed to be frightened. She grabbed Han Dong's shoulders with both hands and hid behind him. Through her big black eyes, she secretly glanced at Demps, who was using the mysterious long spear. Her eyes flashed with fear, as if she was very afraid of this person. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.